To move into public.
Motion?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Before we started, I just say good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining us. And I want to take a moment to express that the district has still not received guidance from the State Education Department or the New York State Department of Health on COVID reopening requirements for the fall. Please understand that we are just as frustrated as the parents in this district and across the state. With that being said, and unless otherwise directed, we are planning to open under the same guidelines as the summer programs. Please contact your local state officials and the governor's office to let them know your concerns as well. Okay, now I'll just stand for a pledge of allegiance. Where's the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please remain standing for a moment of silence for our military. Thank you. Will District Clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Kennedy?
Present?
Mrs. Augulus? Mrs. Napolitano-Furno?
Present.
Mr. Murphy?
Present.
Mrs. Mallon?
Present.
Dr. Adams? Present. Mr. Hauser? Mr. Middleman?
Present.
We have Ms. Hutchinson, Legal Counsel? Present. And myself, the District Clerk.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to the minutes for the board. Call for a motion and a second to accept the minutes of July 8th, 2021, special meeting. All in favor?
You gotta take a motion.
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 Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to call for a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the July 13th, 2021 reorganization meeting. Motion? I'll motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion so carried. I call for a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the July 28th, 2021 special meeting. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going to the audit committee meeting. I'd like to suspend the business meeting. Need to call.
Hold on just one moment. If we could skip over that, I'm having issues getting onto Zoom right now. So our auditor's joining us via Zoom, and Zoom just isn't loading.
Okay. Okay, we'll go on to policy. I'll call for a motion and a second to approve the second reading and adoption of 2021-2022 Code of Conduct as presented. I need a motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Was there any changes made to this?
It was out for public comment. Mrs. Santa, were there any public comments that afforded any kind of change?
No, Dr. Adams, there were not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. Okay, now we're going on to presentations. Mr. Middleman, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, will present data and results from the 2020-21 school year. Mr. Middleman?
Thank you. Just wait for the presentation to load.
My apologies. Do you want to go with the auditor? She is here.
Okay.
So
let's
now
just-
that I am hooked up, I'm sorry about that, Mr. Middleman.
No problem.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, a second, to suspend Mr. Middleman's discussion item for the moment and go back to the audit committee. I'd like to suspend the business meeting. Motion,
Motion.
second? I'll second it. All in favor? Is Jill here? Okay, motion second to go into the audit committee. I'll motion.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, Jill, it's all yours. We can't hear.
Yes? Okay, great, thank you so much. Shall I start in?
Yep,
Okay, great. Has everyone had the opportunity to receive the copy of the audit planning document for this evening? Okay, great, thank you. So what I'd like to do with the board this evening is to walk through the document and speak a little bit about what the audit process is, especially for some of those newer board members. So, I'm going to walk through, starting with page 2, what the objectives of the audit are. So as the Board of Education is aware, my role is to audit the financial statements and to give an opinion on whether or not the financial statements fairly present. The information in the financial statements is derived from Envision, which is the accounting software that's used by the school district. And so we will go ahead and we will audit those books and records, and we will make a determination as to whether or not we feel they are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States of America. We're also required to look at, second bullet on page 2, we're also required to look at the internal controls over financial reporting and laws and regulations. It's what's known as the Yellow Book audit in accordance with government auditing standards, and this is because the school district doesn't spend federal funding as we know. Also, the State Education Department wants us to look at the extra classroom activity funds. There's a cash basis reconciliation by cover activity of receipts and disbursements, and overall those transaction balances tie into the bank statements at the end of the year and also during the year, based upon the reports that are provided to the Board of Education. So the State Education Department wants us to look at the accounting for that, that's cash basis reporting, and also give an opinion on that presentation. And then because the district expends more than $750,000 in federal funding, and I think we're all aware of the fact that the district tries very hard to get whatever outside federal and state funding is available to support their educational programs and their food service operation. And during the previous year, fiscal year 2020, it was about $2.2 million in federal expenditures, about $1.6 million in the special aid area, and about $600,000 in medical reimbursement in the service area. And so because of that level of spending, the district is required to have what's known as a federal single audit. And this is also looking at compliance with laws and regulations as it relates to each major federal program. These federal programs are determined each year based upon a criteria as far as risk assessment. Last year, fiscal year 2020, the food service fund programs, which is National School Lunch, and all the support in conjunction with food service programs that were audited as major. This year, based upon our initial determination, it probably will be the special education area, 611 and 619 grants that were awarded. So those are our requirements as far as our engagement objectives. And so on page 3, since it is a financial statement audit, even though we will look at the internal controls to see whether or not we may rely on them with respect be immaterial. We examine our test cases. We don't look at every claim, that's what your internal claims auditor does, but I will tell you that we look at a substantial amount of work so that we do feel comfortable that the account balances are fairly stated and the underlying transactions are fairly stated, but a financial statement audit does something a little bit different than what your internal claims auditor is doing with respect to every transaction giving rise to a cash disbursement. As I mentioned, we apply materiality, and that's in conjunction with the standards that are promulgated. And we don't look at every single transaction, but we do look at those that are material. And I'll talk a little bit about the risk assessment. And so we have, on the second part of page 3, we have 3 standards that we're really looking to comply with. And as I mentioned before, when we're looking at the objectives, the generally accepted auditing standards, and that's overall the basic financial statement presentation components. Generally, the government auditing standards, which is DAGAS, generally accepted government auditing standards, and that's because you do expend federal funding, as I mentioned before. And then that higher level of standards that we're required to follow under the Federal Single Board Act, and this is guidance from the federal government through the OMB. My responsibility, because I work for the Board of Education, is to communicate to the Board of Education as I'm conducting my audit if there's something significant to the audit. And so to the extent that there might be something that I need to communicate, would not be way at a significant level. I would not be waiting to conclusion of the audit to do that. I would be reaching out to the board president. I never have had to do that in my experience as your auditor for the school district, but my responsibility is to the Board of Education. I maintain an independence and an attitude of professional skepticism, so even though I do work with the district staff, I do work for the Board of Education. At the top of page 4, district responsibilities. So even though we are preparing a financial statement document, we're really preparing for information based on the books and records that are maintained by the school district. And there are certain things that need to be in place in order to have a good internal control structure. So these things that are detailed on the list of district responsibilities, such as the annual financial statement and the accompanying information. Even though we draft the documents, the district's responsibility to make the determination that all of the significant policies that need to be adopted have been adopted. And we'll talk about one in particular, as we get towards the tail end of this document. So that's the district's responsibilities. And with that comes oversight. Okay, so there has to be someone at the district, which is usually the official, who's responsible for overseeing all of the services that we provide. So preparing the financial statement, making sure that it's complete. There's a schedule of federal expenditures of awards that took place during the previous year. That's included in the federal single audit. Making sure that the information with regard to what's included there is complete. And then the data collection form, which is filed for the federal single audit with the federal single audit clearinghouse. Those are non-audit services that the district has exercised oversight responsibility in the past. I mentioned about proper accounting policies. So obviously we have conversations. The district's really good. They reach out during the year. Anytime there's something new with respect to accounting policy, there were questions with respect to the funding for the CARES Act, making sure that all of those items have been handled properly. That's really the district's responsibility. Obviously, there are adjusted journal entries in conjunction with the way that those are handled through books and records. We would be proposing those. And the Board of Education would see that on our communication to them. I remember we did a communication document that talks about things that happened during the conduct of the audit. The internal control structure is something that the district is responsible for, so compliance is a very big thing, and I can talk about the CARES Act form. So there are many layers of what the requirements are for applying for the funding. There's layers as far as the account structure that's been set up in the books and records to track those CARES funding expenditures. And so those are things when we're looking at compliance that it's the district's responsibility. And the same thing, we can assist the district if there are questions during the year, but ultimately that's the role of the school district. Financial reporting, understanding what has to go in what particular place, the financial statement, that is the district's responsibility. And then the prevention and detection of fraud. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the procedures that we utilize when we assess fraud in the conduct of the audit. them with respect to what they did during various phases of the pandemic, because we want to make sure that we understand the differences in what the internal control structure might have looked like, and then we can test that there were appropriate controls at those various points in time. Okay? So if there was a significant deficiency, for whatever reason, because the staffing may not have been full complement of employees, or there might have been issues with respect to accessing the network, which there weren't any things like that during this past year, those would be something that might lead to a significant deficiency in internal control. So we asked the district at the onset of the audit to describe for us, and we asked the staff who were involved in the processes to describe to us what they did, as I said before, at various points in time during the audit. Making more financial records and related information available, Tricia's very good about this. We have a portal that's dedicated, that has a dedicated site for each of our clients with information to be uploaded, and the district is very good throughout this process with, as we discussed, items uploading to that secure portal. Identifying federal awards, and as I mentioned, the CARES Act awards scored the winner they won for this past year, and how to account for that. Unrestricted access to district personnel. So when we interview staff, we interview it's myself or my staff with that staff person one-on-one in a private setting, so that we can understand exactly what they do, and we can understand if they have questions about anything that they might be doing. And then any kind of adjustments to the records at the end of the year, it's really the district's responsibility to go ahead and take those proposed adjusted journal entries as a result of the audit and determine whether or not they should be adjusted to the books and records. So if there's something that's below the materiality level, technically the school district does not need to adjust their books and records for that, but NACOG school district has been very good, whatever journal entries we might propose as a result of the audit process, they will go ahead and adjust the books and records for each and every one of those. And then at the conclusion of the audit, we asked for the superintendent and the business official to represent to us if all the information that's been provided during the course of the audit is accurate and complete. And that communication has to be signed by both of them before I have to release the report back to the Board of Education. So moving over to page 5, and this is really the guts of what we do during the audit. So it all starts with really risk assessment and understanding where could something go wrong. Okay, so our first part of the audit is we need to understand the district's related risk areas and their internal control structure. And things look different every single year, because some are different, maybe handled into a procedure, or there could be a change in the way that the flow of transactions takes place, or there could be no new transactions that weren't typically reported in years past. And so we start with understanding what those internal controls are, and then understanding the accounting procedures to support those controls. I mentioned before on the second one, what about interviewing the district personnel? So we want to get first-hand information from the individuals involved in the processes as to what they do and why they think they do that. And then we'll look at the internal auditor's reports. So we had seen that there was a risk assessment prepared by the internal auditor, and we also had seen that there was an IT risk area report that had been prepared by the internal auditor. So we read through that information and we evaluated it in terms of the financial statement audit. And what that means then is that we will modify our procedures based upon certain information included in those reports. We will also interview the internal auditor at some point over the next month before we start the report. We also look at the internal claims auditor reports. So those are the reports that are prepared monthly, and they talk about all the claims disbursements that take place. And then we will also look at the internal claims auditor. Actually, we did complete that already. So we're finished with that particular area. Any communications or any audits by any other agencies performed with respect to the district's books and records, we'll ask about and we'll get the reports, and then we'll understand how they might impact the financial statement audit. I reviewed the minutes of the Board of Education meetings, and that looks through certain areas as to what might impact the financial statements. Things such as the energy performance contract, that probably will not impact this year's financial statement, but it probably will be a disclosure as far as the subsequent events. I would have to evaluate that. And there have been various things within the minutes that I need to go ahead and see how the accounting records support what the board has communicated they want their actions to be. I talked about the interview process, and then we performed a preliminary analytical review of the account balances, and this phase already took place. The control evaluation and testing is looking to ascertain that the internal control key areas are in place, that there's compliance with the system working the way that it should, and that it's an effective system with respect to the financial statement reporting. And so the big areas that we would be looking at from a risk assessment would be payroll, purchasing and cash disbursements, the cash receipts and the collections. And we know that there's really not that many cash receipts per se anymore. Most of the funding takes place by wires these days. Your accounting information system or your IT structure and how that relates to the financial statement transactions or the books and records and the financial statement transactions that we're going to put together. Bank reconciliations, journal entries and budget transfers, and then one that I didn't put down here, but that we look at also. We're going to look at the capital project transactions and activity, because you do have the authorization for the bond and you do have the capital reserve money sitting in the capital projects fund for work as described to the community that you were going to do. And then the other area would be the extra classroom activity funds. And we understand that the activity during fiscal year 2021 is probably not like it might look for fiscal year 19, but nevertheless, we do have to audit those particular transactions also. And so we look at different things in these particular areas. We're looking at payroll to make sure people are at the right level based upon what's in their personnel file. We'll look at overtime. We'll look at the payroll certification process. We'll look at the rollover process for salaries and horizontal advancement. We'll look at terminations and what people would get paid based upon their compensated absence bank. We get into purchasing and cash disbursements. We're going to look at things such as support for particular transactions. And we'll do this on a sample basis because we want to ascertain that the transactions are reported appropriately in books and records. We'll look at the receipts and collections, and to the extent that there's billing for services to other school districts or entities, that those make sense and that those are calculated properly. We already sent the Director of Technology a questionnaire to complete, and so we received that questionnaire back and we evaluated that in terms of the books and records and the controls over that. We looked at the bank reconciliations and we looked at the controls over the collateral and the monitoring of that. And then journal entries and budget transfers, we took a sample of those and we evaluated the supporting documentation, and to the extent that the transfers required board approval, was their approval. So those are some of the things in that particular area. And as I mentioned before, we're looking at those to make sure that those key internal control areas is compliance and that those controls are proper controls and they're operating effectively. So in turning to page 6 then, when we were there in the spring, which was the week of May 24th, we did the first type of work. We did the risk assessment and we did the compliance work and the control testing. So now when we come back on August 16th, we're looking at substantiating the numbers that are in the books and records. And so we're looking at significant account balances, and this, this goes to payroll and benefits, and it goes to BOCES codes that have been paid. And we're looking to make sure that transactions are captured properly. And the non-routine transactions and so these would be the key areas that we would be looking at. As I mentioned, payroll related liabilities, revenue recognition, if services were provided, was there a billing that was captured for those services during fiscal year 2021? Restricted reserve activity, the Board of Education adopts a resolution, what they would want to fund into reserves, and then through the budget process, you determine what you want to appropriate those reserves to support the spending side of the budget. We're looking at those authorizations to make sure that the information in the books and records matches up with what the board wants to see happen. Capital project expenditures, I talked a little bit about that, and so we'll look at, to the extent that there are expenditures, we'll look at the AIA documentation if there's any architect projects, and then we'll look at some of the other transactions to make sure that they belong in the capital project fund. Are they supported, or is it a bond project, is it a transfer project from a couple of years back to determine those accounted for properly. The district has a third-party capital asset inventory company, as all school districts do, and they provide that third-party capital asset inventory company with information regarding any capital assets over their capital asset threshold that have been acquired, and then any of those that have been deemed to be disposed by the Board of Education. And so we'll look at that, and we'll look at the current year's calculation for depreciation, and we'll see that whatever's been expended through the books and records has been included in that updated inventory report. There are a number of liabilities, and this is for financial reporting purposes, and the board remembers that we have two sets of financial statements that we're reporting on. We have the modified accrual basis, which is the fund-type financial statements. It's the way that the district keeps their books and records, very much budget-driven. And then there's a full accrual financial statement, the GASB 34 statement. It's a statement of net position and a statement of activities, excuse me. And we'll look at those. That's where the long-term liability, that's where the long-term liabilities are reflected, things like compensated absences and retirement system obligation and other post-employment benefits. And then at the conclusion of that, we'll do a final analytical review. Excuse me. Okay, so upon completion, then, we can assist the district with the financial statement document and the disclosures, and then I will come with a draft report of all the communications and at the time it's convenient to the board, and then we can go ahead and submit the report to the Office of the State Controller, and the district submits their reports off to the State Education Department. And then, just as a reminder, the federal single audit, since it's a compliance audit, it has a different timetable. That's due to the federal government by March 31st. So that's typically, as you know, completed after we complete the financial statement audit. And it will be completed timely by that March deadline. Excuse me. So on page 7 then is the timetable. And so the timetable, as I mentioned, we were at the district on May 24th to do some work, and we had a lot of documents uploaded. We're scheduled to do the substantive phase of the audit during the week of August 16th. I'm planning on coming to the Board of Education at a meeting to present the financial statements during the month of October. And then, as I mentioned, the March date is the deadline for the federal single audit. On page 8 is the staffing for the engagement, and assisting myself again is Bill Oderson, and Bill is currently the Director of Audit Services. He received a promotion from Senior Audit Manager. Bill's been with me, that's 25 years. Assisting Bill is my Senior Accountant, Samantha Castano. She has about 20 years of experience, and then Brittany Seppi has about 5 years of experience. So it's the team who's supporting me on the engagement. And so then for recent developments, there are two GASB, Government Accounting Standards Board statements. One will apply to the fiscal year that we're auditing right now, and the other will apply to the subsequent year. So the second one at the bottom of the page, leases, GASB statement number 87, talks about reflecting on the financial statement an asset, which is going to be the ability to use an asset under lease, and then a liability to pay that lease off, and an amortization of the cost each year. We will see that, as it mentions in this document, in the subsequent year's financial statement. The one that you will see on this year's financial statement, which is going to look very different, is the impact of GASB statement number 84. And so the way that this works is that the Government Accounting Standards Board wanted local governments to report their fiduciary fund activity in a consistent manner. And with that, there are 4 transactional types of funds that you have to look at, and they're listed under the second bullet. The one that applies to, or actually 2 that apply to the school district, are going to be the private purpose trust funds, because you do recall that you have scholarship funds. and then custodial funds. And your custodial funds are going to be something like you collect property tax share for the library, and then you pay the library their taxes. That's a custodial transaction. You're asking for those tax dollars, and then the distribution is really for purposes of another entity. So the private purpose trust fund, the scholarship fund, is not going to be in a statement of fiduciary net position anymore, because it's been determined by the Office of the State Controller of New York State that the school district really has administrative control over those transactions. They help determine who those scholarships are going to get awarded to. So with that now, they're going to become a special revenue fund, and you will see them on the balance sheet as another governmental fund. And so just as a reminder, the existing special revenue funds that the school district has are the special aid fund and the food service fund. This will be a new special revenue fund. The other special revenue fund that will be new to the financial statement will be the extra classroom activity fund activity. And so even though these are really not funds of the school district, they're really for the students' use, the state made a determination, since the Board of Education has adopted these clubs as clubs of the school district, and they appoint the treasurers and they appoint the faculty advisors, that this should also be reported as a special revenue type fund on the financial statement of the school district. So this will be another special revenue fund, so now you will have four. And so this will be new on the financial statement. And then everything else that was in the agency fund and the statement of fiduciary net position, which is predominantly withholding or monies that are held on behalf of someone else, will now be shown as general fund transactions. So I know the district's in the process of converting their chart of account structure in accordance with what the Office of the State Controller wants to see respectively. And these transactions, since the books and records are pretty much closed for 2021, these transactions will be recorded upon audit, and that will give the district the opportunity to be in compliance with the standards and have all of the funds appropriately stated on the balance sheet. And so that's my presentation. I know it's a lot of information. I'm sorry if I went a little fast. I didn't know if the Board of Education had questions for me.
Thank you, Jill. Everyone seems fine. They had their packet, they read through it. So thank you very much for telling us what we have to look forward to.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me time this evening. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Bye.
Bye now.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to move out of the audit committee, to move back into our regular committee. The board meeting. Motion,
Motion.
second? I'll second it. All in favor? Okay, we did policy. Now we're going to presentations. Mr. Middleman, would you like to share good news with us?
Yes, thank you very much. This was an incredibly challenging year for everyone involved in our community. And, we were glad to see the school year end the way it did with all of our students back in school. But there are some highlights and some silver linings that I'd like to share with you and kind of look ahead at what things we're looking to expect. So this year we had a graduation rate of 99%. 98% of our students received a Regents or Regents diploma with advanced designation. 72% of our students received a Regents with advanced designation. 23 students earned a Regents diploma with advanced designation with honors. 83% of our seniors are attending either a 2 or 4-year college. 18 of our seniors and 3 of our juniors earned the New York State Seal of Biliteracy. We had 452 students who wrote 852 advanced placement examinations. We had 90 AP scholars, 21 AP scholars with honors, 24 AP scholars with distinctions. 4 students earned an AP capstone diploma. 9 students earned an AP seminar and research certificate, and that's a relatively new program for us. In addition, Connecticut High School earned the New York State CTE approval for their Business Management Academy, as well as our new Accounting and Finance Academy. We had 10 projects entered into the virtual Long Island Science Congress. 3 students, Joseph DeRosa, Carmela Eads, and Christopher Dubinsky, presented their work to the National Synchrotron Light Source 2 and Center for Functional Nanomaterials joint competition and the NSPC Health Science competition. In addition, they have 2 novel structures that are being reviewed for publication at the Protein Data Bank. Stacy Vilka was accepted to the Brookhaven National Lab High School Research Program. 18 students presented their work at the Barcode Long Island Symposium. In one of our new courses at the high school, Residential Structures, we had students construct a 100-foot shed at the rear of the technology labs, which you could see outside. And that will be donated to Habitat for Humanity. Each week, we highlighted our art and music students with showcase events. And obviously, due to this year not being able to have parents come into the schools to see their students perform and demonstrate their work, this was a great opportunity for parents and the entire community to see the great work our students are producing. We had 4 Connecticut High School students participate in NYSSMA All-State Concert. 60 students participated in the virtual NISGAME and SCAMIA concerts. And this spring, Connecticut virtually hosted the NYSSMA Solo and Ensemble Festival for 176 participants. We had 516 Section 11 scholar athletes, and our girls gymnastics team was the Suffolk County champions. In some of our classrooms, we hosted Tracy Reiner, Dwyer Brown, and David McKinney Evans in our sports literature and sports journalism classes at Connecticut High School. In addition, we did another collaborative interdisciplinary project at RMS with our ELA and our science classes, where we hosted an interdisciplinary meet with Dr. Ham Kim, an epidemiologist and professor of public health and epidemiology at Westminster College. We implemented a district-wide library book circulation this past September. In addition, we opened our newly renovated Connecticut High School Library Media Center for students and faculty use. Our students created over 1,500 our teachers created over 1,500 Google Classrooms, 136 active teachers in Edpuzzle with 600 lessons launched. We had 154 active teachers in Nearpod with 2,748 lessons launched, 135 active teachers with over 100,000 pieces of student work submitted to Seesaw. Last year, our technology team distributed 3,196 Chromebooks, as well as 344 iPads to our students. We ran over 200 technology professional development workshops, and there are 104 teachers signed up to participate in our summer technology professional development series. We just have a quick video that we'd like to show. Hopefully it works. No? Okay, so we'll pass. Next slide. Next slide, please. So using our universal screener, our elementary students, we did an assessment of their mathematics and reading skills. We did that 3 times this year. The percent of students at average or above was 87% in mathematics. The percent of students below average was 13%, and this is district-wide. In ELA reading, the percent of our students who were average or above was 84%, and the percent of our students who were below average was 16%. And we planned for support for these students who were below average, and we'll share that in the next slide. Using the grant money that we received from New York State, the CRSSA funding, we were able to provide several programs during this past spring as well as this summer. One was at the high school, which was incredibly successful, which was our in-school and after-school Connecticut High School Spring Credit Recovery Program. We had a huge number of successes with that, and it was targeted for students who had some challenges with the hybrid model that we were presenting to them during the first part of the school year. We had 86 students participate in our in-school program, 81 completed. In our after-school program, I apologize, as a typo, 68 students participated and 68 students completed. So we had over 91 courses that were that students participated in. To support our middle school students, we had a targeted in-person middle school summer program that ran several weeks during this summer. In addition, we had an elementary summer support program, and we constructed that program to be a kind of hybrid, independent, and virtual model. Again, targeting those students who we've identified as needing some additional support. In addition, with the grant funds, we were able to give unlimited access and online support in all of the platforms that are listed, which was eSpark, iExcel, RazKids, and Myon. There was a flyer that we had sent out in June, and I'll be sending out another flyer next week to just remind parents that these options are available, and they're all online and web-based, so we can use them from home. In addition, we had a newly created English as a new language summer support program for our kindergarten through grade 5, as well as our middle school. And then we're running a targeted series at the end of August for our high school E&L students so that we prepare them for the entry into school. Some things to come in 2021 we're excited about, which is the implementation of our IT networking course for juniors and seniors, leading to a CompTIA certification. We're offering computer science push-in program at both RMS and OBMS this coming school year. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, we have the implementation of the Accounting and Finance Academy at the high school. We're increasing K-2 physical education. And we're returning our elementary computer science and engineering program, our math specialists, our reading specialists, our elementary lunch and learn FLES program, as well as our elementary music ensembles. Recently, New York State approved our CRRSA and ARP grants, and that is additional money that we can use to support student learning and support students across the district. The grant is a limited time period. So we have $5 million in one grant and $2.8 million in another grant. And those grants are targeted at a variety of different areas to support our students. But again, it's important to note that this isn't money that we'll have forever. So it's to provide some interventions where we identify need, or to provide materials that doesn't create an ongoing cost for the district. So our spending plan this summer and spring has been, as I kind of discussed, again, with the focus of supporting all of our Connecticut learners. We had our credit recovery program. We gave access to our online platforms. We had our elementary summer program, our middle school summer program, our E&L summer program, as well as we started our district-wide HVAC cleaning as a way to, again, provide a safe and healthy environment for our students and staff. Proposed spending plan focuses on 4 main areas. Again, supporting all of our Connecticut learners. One is focusing on learning loss, and that's due to either the closure that we sustained last spring, or the nature of the way school was set up last school year. Mental health, which is an area that we will be speaking about later on with Ms. Gail Santo. Health and safety, which is something that we talked about with regards to the HVAC system, as well as increased instructional support for our students during the school day. So the funded initiatives as we go forward, again, focus on those 4 areas. We're looking at extended day programs for our students. We're looking at opportunities to provide enrichment programs, as well as Saturday programs for our students, and continued access to all the online resources that we have. For mental health, we're expanding our SEL program, the Ruler program, which Ms. Santo will talk about. We want to increase parent communication and community involvement and continue our mindfulness initiative. Health and safety will continue the cleaning and sanitizing protocols, continue the PPE purchasing, and addressing indoor air quality, which we discussed earlier. As far as instructional support, we're looking to see if we can add instructional coaches, increase our response to intervention supports for our students who are struggling academically and emotionally, increase early intervention supports for our K-2 students, create in 5th and 8th grade transition supports to help those students, as well as enhance our professional development for our instructional staff. So at the end, on behalf of Central Administration, I'd like to thank our teachers, nurses, administrators, teacher assistants, aides, clericals, custodians, plants and facilities, security, food service workers, bus drivers, bus matrons, transportation staff, our Board of Education, our parents, and our amazing students for their professionalism, flexibility, and persistence this past school year. It definitely tested all of us, and I couldn't be more proud to work in Connecticut in a place that supports their students and their staff as much as we do. So I just want to thank everybody for that.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do, me too.
Go ahead, Mylan, you can start.
So, Dean, thank you very much for your thoughtful presentation with a lot of information. That was very greatly appreciated. I'm not going to overwhelm you tonight. I'm only just going to have basically one question, and I will email you the rest as I see appropriate. But the one concern I do have is that the elementary student performance, so we have 87% of our kids are average or above. So my interpretation is if 65 or 70 is the passing level, that falls into that 87%.
No, because this is based on a universal screener that we have implemented this past year. So this is the first year that we're using the screener, so I don't have any historical data to show how our students have done previously. But this does not correlate to our grading policy here in Connecticut.
Okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, it's saying that 13% of our elementary kids are not doing very well with math or struggling.
Correct.
Okay, I see here on the 16% for our elementary children. When I go to your second page of your presentation, Elementary Summer Support Program. The elementary support meets via Google Classroom with a certified elementary teacher. I would like to know why would this be through that kind of platform and not in person, where children really do absorb a lot more of that information and they really do like to have that engagement.
So one of the things that we had, sorry. So as we started these conversations and received the funding for this, it did happen relatively late in the school year. But one of the main points was giving both our students and parents a little bit of a break from school. And since our students were in school every day since the beginning of school, since September, we felt we'd offer this opportunity for parents and for students to, have a minimal impact on their family and their opportunity this past summer. As we go forward, all the programs that we will be offering will be in person. But as an initial one out of the gate, we weren't sure of how many parents would commit to an in-person program. We felt we would give it some flexibility and some options for them.
Okay, as for the secondary level, were there any supports put in to help those that struggled a bit? And was that via a virtual platform as well?
So the secondary, we did not put any summer supports in person. What we did, though, provide was this credit recovery program in the spring, which was an in-person program. Incredibly successful, and it's something that we're looking to continue as we go forward. In addition, we also, for the first time, offered transportation for students who had to, access summer school. And we provided transportation for our secondary students who needed to get to I think it was East Islip was the host site. We provided transportation for them.
Actually, that's very good, because I know years prior, we didn't offer transportation, and that left working parents, obviously with children, if not, driving age, having to make that tough decision whether or not to send their child to summer school. So I want to thank you for adding that on. That's definitely a benefit for many parents, so thank you.
I would love to take credit, but our high school administration was, definitely advocating for that, as well as the in-school credit recoveries, our directors and chairs as well.
I think it's a great to add that on. And thank you again, Dean.
Yeah. I was told that the AP grades, they weren't as good this year, obviously, as they were in years prior.
So I didn't include the AP results, but I will have a full report for the board prior to school starting on the AP results. Historical, so you'll get an opportunity to see.
The other thing is, did opting out affect the outcome of these numbers? Are these true percentages, or did the opting out kind of change the numbers?
As far as the regents and the advanced designation, no. I didn't.
I'm talking about more like, I guess, in the elementary, the percentages you gave.
No, I mean, we historically have had a high percentage of our students refuse the assessments, and that's why we moved to a different universal screener to get an idea of where our students stood against us and our community. So it's an important benchmark for us. We don't really use the state assessments as a tool to gather any real data from.
Thank you.
So with that particular model, you really have no true comparison to your neighboring districts as far as how our children fare as opposed to Sayville. Hey, Mr. President, how are you doing there? Or president's here from Sayville. So we have no idea how our children fare towards his, students' comparison to Sachem to other surrounding schools. So when these children do go to college or do these applications for college, they are competing against these surrounding districts, obviously across the United States, to get into a lot of these colleges. So we're only, if you're only doing an overview of what you have, how do you know if you're doing a comparison to another district?
So, our high school results are pretty outstanding, and that generally is the barometer of how our students compare to our surrounding districts. For our elementary students, it's about progress and growth. And, we, over the past 5 years, we've done a variety of different universal screeners, as well as focused on our benchmarking of students, both in literacy and math. We feel very confident with the assessments that we're using to gauge the level our students are at. We don't use the state assessment as that tool, but we use other tools that we've developed to make sure that our students are staying at or above grade level.
And to your point, we have
Okay, Dean, once again, I'd like to thank you. I'd like a report from, not this thorough, but 8 years ago when this administration took place and we started focusing more on education, adding programs, et cetera. Can you give us an analysis in the next month or two of how we've come from 7-8 years ago to today?
Yes, I could try to put something together.
This way we'll know where we're going tomorrow, and we can put that in our goals also.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Nice job, thank you. The next presenter here is Gail Santos, Director of Pupil Personnel.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Board of Education. Following Mr. Middleman, recognizing that it was a remarkable year last year, I have to give great credit to our district, of course, administration, Board of Ed, but particularly the staff, the teachers, the mental health staff, the support staff, and all persons that work in the district, because as the year was remarkable, we rose to the occasion to try to meet the individual mental health and social emotional needs of our students. And I am here to present this evening to you to outline what our objectives were pre-COVID, right before COVID was in all of our daily lives. And now that we're resuming, how we're going to continue our path and our objectives. Okay, the next slide, please. So pre-2020, we'll use it that way so we don't have to say COVID, you may remember that there was a mental health education literacy in schools linking a continuum of well-being. That was a framework from the New York State Education Department around 2018 and 19. And the district aligned our curriculum, our mental health curriculum, and our benchmarks with that document. In that document, there were various modes of instruction and application that was recommended to assess student needs and also to teach and meet needs. One suggestion was to assess student needs by means of surveys. If those of you may have remembered, about 2 years ago, I did a presentation on the results of the Bach-Harrison survey. That was given specifically to students in grades 6, 8, 12, and that was the New York Prevention Needs Assessment Survey under Bach-Harrison. If you remember, I had presented distinct barcodes and charts showing where there were changes in students' performance, at-risk behaviors, and at-risk tendencies. And what was remarkable about those findings is that's what prompted the conversation at looking at when health instruction or health courses or classes were offered to our students. At the time of the Bach-Harrison survey, we had health instruction in grades K through 5 through the youth and family service coordinators, the social workers. But then in middle school, students only received it in 7th grade. And then in the high school, students had the option of grade 11 or 12, depending on their core options and the electives they so chose to have, to take. And of course, the looking for college applications and accrual of credit. So the problem that we discovered was that students were receiving a revised or more developmentally appropriate health education in the middle of middle school and at the end of their high school career. And we needed to focus on a greater preventative model. So as a result of that survey and many conversations with central office staff and the Board of Ed, we revised and reorganized, aimed towards reorganizing our health instruction so that it's brought to the earlier middle school grades so that children, you've heard students say, been there, done that. When we're talking about risky behaviors or alcohol or drugs, we want to be more preventative and we don't want there to be a 4 or 5 year lapse in conversation. So that was a very significant activity and it proved to be worthwhile. Again, we had the health curriculum that was provided in all 7 elementary classes. That was aligned with the state ed program of Health Smart. That was data driven, as well as curriculum written by the department. The health classes, the half credit in middle school and high school were those grades that I already identified that we were trying to realign. We began focusing on SEL, and those of you that may not know, social emotional learning, and mindfulness training. We've offered it to the staff and to the students, and we even offered classes. It's a form of social emotional learning. It helps one regulate their own emotions. I mention that because in this mental health education initiative, the whole concept of the whole child was reintroduced. It's not just the physical, it's the emotional, and it's the feelings and behaviors a child is experiencing. The mindset is the more controlled and prepared and capable a child is in their feelings and feeling of well-being, there's a greater readiness to learn. There's also a greater readiness or capability of relating to a peer, of relating to a staff member, of relating in the community. So this initiative will ultimately, evidence suggests, impact our climate and our culture district-wide. So how are we going to do that? The bottom mental health literacy schools conference that was attended by myself and many of the social workers was our first introduction to Dr. Mark Brackett, from Yale University, who's the co-founder of the Emotional Intelligence Center in Yale and also the author of the Ruler Program, which we'll speak to later. But we had a lot going on, as you can see, right pre-2020. Then, next slide, please. Okay, we also were continuing our initiatives district-wide with our weekly United We Stand for a Drug-Free Community, and therein we discussed prevention strategies, educational assemblies, risk factors, and the impact and effects of drugs, not just socially, emotionally, but also physiologically. We've had doctors come in and show the adverse effects to one's body and brain development. Healthy habits and nutrition, again, holistic in approach. We had incorporated in our health lessons safe and healthy choices, nutritional guidelines, as well as those of you that came to our wellness fair, we had Tower Gardens set up and established, and we taught children how to grow plants over the course of a school year. And they ate lettuce for a very long time, but it was wonderful. But what we've discovered, when they had the responsibility and they were the caretakers, of course, they were very proud, but they were more apt to eat the lettuce, I must say. Also, DASA Week, those of you that know Dignity for All Students Act, it was once anti-bullying. Before, I credit this district, Connecticut was ahead of the DASA initiative because we had an anti-bullying committee for 7 years before it became law. But still therein, we celebrate that week district-wide in February. But it's not just a staple week. We embed these strategies and these objectives in our instruction and our daily support and intervention. Namely, SEL initiatives were also identified and reinforced, and relational skills. What does that mean? When someone is being bullied by another person or someone is not getting along or there's a disconnect, we try to teach students how to relate, how to avoid confrontation, how to respond to confrontation. Because all students have to be avid problem solvers if they're to be successful and independent. Mindfulness practices, stress is at sometimes a good motivator. It's the level of stress. Once it impacts your life and it impedes your performance or stops you, then it's no longer healthy. Some of you may remember that we introduced, or we had on several occasions, had a push-in reviewing sensitivity, teaching empathy and sensitivity of others with disabilities or differences. And that movie was Wonder, so we will be doing that again across the district in all grade 6 classes with a social worker or mental health provider pushing in so that there's dialogue. And it's not just watching a movie, but it's constructive dialogue to review the components of the movie and to establish takeaways and objectives. Next slide, please. And then there's 2022, 2021. And as COVID was here, the staff again rose to the occasion, and we tried to reach those students that, of course, were in school, but also those that were home, as well as parents. And the staff were steadfast in producing Google Classrooms with a plethora, a litany of resources, both individual, for family, for community, for parent, for child, different scales, activities that could be done at home. That was a collaborative effort, and it was maintained all year. Those of you may remember at the beginning or right before last year, the Board of Education approved the district piloting a K-8 ruler program, and it was last summer, that all K-8 cohorts, that means there's a small group in each of the buildings, because they did not have a high school program at the time. So we identified grades K-8, and that is multidisciplinary, meaning a social worker, an administrator, a school counselor, a psychologist, all volunteer to be trained in this program. And the ruler supports the entire school communities in understanding the value of emotions, building skills of emotional intelligence, and creating and maintaining a positive school climate. Again, this program is evidence-based and data-driven. And then we also generated the social emotional well-being surveys. The staff worked collaboratively on that, and that helped to drive our instruction and our support programs given throughout the pandemic. Of course, continuity of district mental health support. And then if any of you had the pleasure of listening to our very talented, we have a psychologist, a social worker, two social workers, a school counselor was on board too, and then she had a conflict with the schedule, but I very much appreciated the collaborative effort of providing a parent workshop to parents and students, but mainly parents, to help foster a sense of resiliency in their child. So there was a plethora of strategies, and we're going to repeat that again. And once you see the Save the Day flyer, I strongly encourage that you take the time, because if just for the resources alone, we teach our students to have a toolbox, and as parents, we need toolboxes as well. Have something in your pocket and know what resources are available to you should you need them. Next slide, please. So we had the K through 8 ruler training during the summer, right before the COVID pandemic. And this past summer, Mr. Moran, some of his administrative staff, and myself attended a leadership ruler training. And that is all subsidized, I might add, through the CRR. Did I say enough R's? Yes, I did. SA grant. So it is not costing the district money. The former training, K through 8, was funded already, and this was subsidized through the grant. And more importantly, this October, while it was very worthwhile, we will have a interdisciplinary cohort from the high school, and we will seek volunteers from social workers, psychologists, school counselors, and administrators. And if there's another teacher interested, it would be wonderful to participate in a 12-hour training so that they can become the turnkey trainers and voice of the building as a cohort to work with the staff. Where Ruler is unique is that it's not a program per se, it's a process. And we start with the adults, because the premise is, once we understand, we all have emotions, yes? And our emotions are driven from our life experiences. And then our behavior is connected to what we feel and how we feel, all right? What we need to do is help students cope with their emotions, and do we have a perfect day in our life every day? I wish I did, but life would be boring, wouldn't it? But it's those days that you need help in managing your emotions or dealing with a stressful situation, and that's our job to model for the students so they can be as productive as they can be. They'll have a bad day. You will have a bad day. We all have bad days. But it's how you recover and you still refocus and be productive. That's our job. So we start with the leaders. We're also going to start with, in each building, the cohorts will meet with the faculty and the administrator, and collectively the building will say, what are our goals for this building? What feelings do we want all members of our schoolhouse to feel? And then in unison, they will do it together. So you'll have a greater understanding as the students learn, and we will be teaching our staff more formally as the year proceeds. But it's a very exciting year because it's very timely and we're ready to go. Again, just to recap, why is it so significant? I highlighted the health lessons K through 5, but those frameworks that are listed below are all those that are mentioned in the state education department, from the state education department. So it's a reassurance to the Board of Education and parents that we have been on point as far as the objectives that have been required. We've been teaching relationship skills. We've been teaching self-management, which is part of self-care and Aaron's Law and protecting of one's personal well-being and body. The whole school, the whole community, and the whole child will be fostered from a enhanced sense of community, and that's what Ruler will offer. So our focus this year, right in the middle of those frameworks listed, is the SEL component, and that has been our commitment for the last year. A little interrupted with COVID, but we're still on point with A, intent, B, desire, and 3, knowledge. Next slide, please. So what do we need to do these frameworks and these trainings that we've attended? What do we need to meet the needs of, what do we need to do, excuse me, to meet the needs of all learners? We need to use surveys. We've done so twice in the last 4 years. They also mentioned outreach and a one-to-one connection. I've mentioned the word sense of community because we know students, right? Students are with us for 7 hours a day, anywhere from 5 to 7 hours, depending on the program of the child, but most 7 hours. Then they go home. You supporting the school and the school supporting you enhances the sense of community. That's why our relationship is so pivotal. Ours meaning parent and schoolhouse. And then in that relationship, we can help identify your child's needs. You know your child more so than anyone else, but sometimes students, depending on the age, reveal things or speak to a trusted adult, and we could help you help your child. So that's why that connection is paramount. Partner with community providers for screenings and services, and I'll explain that further in a minute. And then also use a trauma-informed approach, integrate check-ins and wellness strategies, and a multi-tiered approach. Next slide, please. So just giving you a snapshot of that multi-tiered approach. I know you've seen it before, and the board is also fluent in it, but in theory, what it is, it's a progressive system. Tier 1 is your school level support. When a child is having a bad day, or the child didn't do well in class, or the child forgot their homework and they're upset. It could be one teacher, it could be a classroom, it could be a counselor, it could be one mode of intervention, and then it can be addressed. But as a child's needs increase or expand or are not easily identified in one strategy or one method of intervention, then it becomes more progressive. So it goes from a tier 1, then tier 2, which is a secondary level, and then tier 3 is the most, I don't want to say restrictive, but individualized. Okay, next slide, please. And then to enhance this common language that the Ruler program is going to identify or help each school identify, we need to communicate that with our community and our staff. So what my office will also be doing is this year you're going to see a quarterly mental health literacy bulletin. It's important that you know what your students, or your children, excuse me, our students, your children, are exposed to. And then hopefully we will have a shared or a common language. Similarly, we're going to share something with the staff. We have a very large district, and everyone is very involved, and we have many different initiatives. But what's significant about a social emotional program in a district is that we have a common goal and a common language. And that I'm going to seek the input of all mental health. It's not just going to be authored by myself. It's going to be mental health staff across the district. Secondly, what's key, and I hope to see some parents on this committee, I'm going to establish a mental health interdisciplinary committee. And therein, we need stakeholders across the district. So we'll start with the most important, students. I hope to see students on that committee. And it doesn't have to be every meeting, because sometimes we'll have to have conversations, but it's important to have student input. And then also parents and teachers and administrators and hopefully Board of Ed trustees, okay? And also any specialty organization or community organization that can have a relationship with the district as far as resources or alliances. So that I'm very excited about. And then lastly, as a result of the affiliation with Yale University and the training that the district has ensued for the last 2 years, Mark Brackett's agency, Yale University, the Emotional Intelligence Institute, developed a 10-hour training course that speaks to re-entry into school post a pandemic. Do you think that's very timely? I do. And it also mentions the benefit and need for social emotional wellness and health. So Mr. Middleman and Dr. Adams were discussing how this can be offered to our staff as a professional development. So again, that common language is ensued and understood. Next slide, please. There are 2 other mental health roles, however, that are needed, in my opinion, to fulfill these objectives as stated by the New York State Education Department, their benchmarks, and for us to achieve their objectives. It's important for me to tell you that each of these roles that are going to be outlined would be subsidized through the CRA SA grant. So it would not impose a burden to the district's budget, but yet the role is still nonetheless essential. The first one would be an outreach coordinator. So remember, I'm talking about an interdisciplinary team, and first credit goes to the effort of all of our mental health staff, psychologists, school counselors, social workers, teachers, all those support staff, administrators that serve our children on a day-to-day basis. But sometimes there are emergencies or situations, or when you see a student need through a different lens or perspective, you can offer a different plane of support. Now, what did I just say? If a student is absent 52 times over a course of the year, and the district does their due diligence, the school counselor calls home and has a wonderful relationship with the parent, but the parent says the child is coming and then the child doesn't come. And then the administrator sends the attendance letter home, putting it on notice, telling them it's your duty to have your child attend. Then that's our due diligence. We're doing our part. But at the end of the day, we just don't want record. We want the child present in school. So that person, that outreach coordinator, would go to the person's home, either after school or in the evening. This is not a district staff person. This is someone who literally is the coordinator with the community. And then that person can come back and give that different lens of support, or that incident that the schoolhouse was not aware of course, all confidentially, but it's just to help the child. Okay. Also refer to community resources. Now, if you've seen my presentations before, we refer children to DASH. We refer children to Stony Brook University when evaluations are done, but there are a plethora of mental health resources and other resources. A child may have an addiction that we know not of, and there are resources out there that can be assigned on slided scale, etc. And that's what this person would do. And then lastly, of course, vitally important, would be expected, or be asked, but expected, to be part of the interdisciplinary committee. Next slide, please. In addition, that's outside of the schoolhouse. In addition to that position, another position that would be subsidized through the CRRSA grant, I did it? Good. I think I keep adding letters, is a teacher on special assignment. This mental health literacy coordinator. Yes, I am in charge of the department and I have many duties, but what we would like is someone who on a part-time basis is working with PPS and the schoolhouses to ensure that there's fluidity and rollout of this SEL program that I'm speaking of. And then also support me in helping it, the training be brought to each of the 10 schools. Because it's one thing to have a training. Now we have to make sure that it's embedded in the day-to-day functions of the school. For example, the superintendent and I and Mr. Middleman were talking earlier today, and we have to look at our mission statements and our goals for the schoolhouse, because they're regularly revised, and this is one initiative that would be incorporated because this is a fervent goal of ours at this time. And then lastly, the only other position that I am respectfully recommending to ensure that the mental health of all students are met on a fluid basis is the reinstatement of the Director of Guidance. Insofar as the 3 secondary schools, the 2 middle schools have school counselors as well as the high school. The 2 middle schools and the high school. And there's also a district guidance plan. The district guidance plan is supposed to ensure that all mental health staff and all departments, are following the guidelines that we all collectively wrote in that document, but it must be periodically and regularly aligned with new frameworks and the benchmarks of the state. So that's in writing, but then what about application? So to ensure that there's fluidity in application, it would help the department to have that administrator on point to oversee for those insurances. For example, also to implement mental health prevention and intervention strategies. Scheduling is important, career development is so key. The relationships with the colleges, the applications, the vast assistance that the school counselors do on top of their regular daily counseling and supportive staff as well. But we are focusing on the whole child. So we need to, while those tasks are most essential, we also want to make sure that the mental health prevention and intervention strategies are fluid in all departments from K through 12. So lastly, I did give each of the board members a snapshot of what Ruler is. I did present, but in case you want to reference. And then most importantly, I'm so very happy to tell you that, again, subsidized, Mr. Middleman is really very gracious with the grant. Subsidized through the grant, we were able to get Dr. Mark Brackett, the author of Ruler, to come as keynote for Superintendent's Conference Day. And that's a coup, because he's very difficult to get. So we're very, very happy. And that's 9 o'clock, September 1st, in the high school auditorium. And I'm hoping everyone at this dais, if you have the time, come and hear him present, and you'll have a better understanding of what the message of Ruler is and how it will help the children and the staff and community at large advance socially and emotionally, all for greater emotional intelligence. I thank you.
Any board members have any questions?
I have a question. So what I'm going to thank you for your very well detailed presentation. Greatly appreciate it. In conclusion, I've heard that you would like a 0.5 for your support staff, and that you're also looking for the director of guidance to be reinstated, the position, the role. I would agree with you for both. I think this coming year is going to be, some obstacles that weren't there before because of COVID. You're going to have a lot of, I hate to say it, maybe some PTSD, then infection with this supposed, I shouldn't say supposed, with the Delta strain. You're going to create some more stress and anxiety over that. So I definitely understand your need to have it. My question is, now that are they still going to do the contact tracing, or everything is still undecided how they're going to continue that?
Well, yes, madam, it is undecided at this time. We're waiting for direction. But if all things were to reopen, we would open again as we closed in June, the most recent guidelines. So I think that's what we'll be telling. If you remember last year, I think, Dr. Adams, we didn't get that reopening plan until mid-August, if I'm not mistaken. We rewrote that model like 6 times. We rewrote it over and over again. So if, and I don't want to make any commitments, but if we were, I would hypothesize, if we were directed by the governor and by the Department of Health to wear masks, then I would expect that we would have to contact trace and record, because that's how they maintain the rate of diagnosis. Okay, so we are prepared to move forward as we did last year, should that be the directive. But right now, we have no such direction.
Okay. I agree with you, and I support you, for asking for those both positions.
Thank you. So you meant the teacher on special assignment and the
Correct.
director of guidance?
Correct, yes. I mentioned it as being as part of your support team.
Thank you very much.
So I would definitely, I don't know if we can make a motion to have the 0.5 as support staff and do the director of guidance, or is that something that we'll have to do at another meeting?
There are actually requests for a 1.0 outreach coordinator, for a mental health professional to go to our students' houses, especially those who are returning from full hybrid. So if you, Gail, just go back to the.
But before we have any
before-
consensus on that, there should be more discussion from all board members.
Sure, let me just clarify what the ask was. So the Director of Guidance is a reinstatement, but through CRRSA funds, which is we need to supplement our program and not supplant because it's one-shot infusion of monies. It's about $7 million, but it's $7 million over the course of the next 2 to 3 years that we can use over the course of, and then those funds will go away. So if you look at the program that Gail presented, one of the things that we would like to do is have someone who is more of an after-hours kind of person, not during the school day. That way she or he can meet with our families and see if there's some things that they can do to help make that transition back from either full remote or the partial remote that we had and help get our families any kind of services and help that they might need that are external to the work that we do
The
within the school day.
1.0, you're referring to the 1.0, not the 0.5.
Correct. The 1.0 is the outreach coordinator. The 0.5 would be a teacher on assignment that is helping roll out the literacy programs with fidelity in all 10 of our buildings. And then Gail also requested the reinstatement of the director of guidance. Those were the two, basically
You want me to
2
talk?
points.
Okay, the outreach coordinator.
It's on the board right now, ladies. So you can
The
just see.
outreach coordinator, what are her credentials or his credentials going to be before you?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry, Dr. Adams? Myself? I believe it should be a mental health official.
What is, define that? What's a mental health official?
It could be anyone with
A psychologist, a psychiatrist, a guidance counselor, or social worker? What?
I would prefer a social worker who is more familiar with the vast community supports within that realm, but any mental health provider would be apropos. But
What about, and are they going to be going to homes where children aren't coming to school? Is that it?
So, right there, so if I may just focus again, yes. Firstly, we would target those students that have not been in the schoolhouse for the last year because they elected to be virtual. And the other thing is that we remember, we were talking about attendance. The school does their due diligence, the counselors have a rapport with parents, they follow up. But sometimes we have students, Miss Lee, that are out for 40 times a year. And of course, 10 absences is a red flag. So this person would go home, and I suspect it would offer a different perspective. And that person then can come back to the schoolhouse when I have coordinated meetings between staff and this coordinator, so that they can discuss the case through the perspective of the coordinator and the concerns of the schoolhouse.
Okay,
Mental
but
health
why are you
provider.
waiting so long now? If kids were out all the 40 days or however long, you're waiting a whole year. Now a new year's starting, and now you're first going to the homes?
No, excuse me, no, last year we didn't have anyone with 40 absences. I just gave you an example that we have had CPS reports that attendance has been an issue. So if that trend were to present itself, psychology will tell you that that's a red flag indicator, that there's a risk potential.
Well, how
So-
many, does anyone know how many from last year? 100, 200, 100?
Well, if you remember, we had half of the students on Zoom, on virtual learning. So the attendance was not taken on a daily basis as it was when students were in class. Historically, I can tell you, but we do file CPS reports. The point is that I'm looking for a different doorway to provide support to the child. As the world is becoming more unique, we have to think out of the box with all due respect and see if we can service the family or the child. And yes, we are an educational institution, but through that perspective or through those connects that our staff cannot do, they cannot leave and they don't have the time, they have very large caseloads, that is another layer of support.
Well, I don't know if I agree or disagree with that one, because I personally think that maybe a team should go in, could be unsafe.
I'm sorry, who should go in?
A team of people that are related to Connect One, a part of Connect One. I
Okay.
think they'd get a better understanding. Let me finish. I don't know if I'd go into someone's home at night. I don't care what kind of degree I had. You don't know what's going on in these homes.
Okay.
So.
Fair enough.
Say that again?
So this wouldn't be a cold call. So
That's right.
generally what happens I'll speak for the high school for right now. When we start to get established a pattern of attendance where a child is either not attending the whole day or skipping Mondays and Fridays, and we start to see those kind of patterns of attendance, there generally is a wellness check that happens, and it's usually an administrator that goes with a mental health professional. This is more of someone making an appointment to say, hey, can I just come and talk to your family and see how you're doing? And it would be an invitation kind of thing. It wouldn't be a knock on the door because we haven't seen a child in a couple days, which would definitely want a team.
Okay, so. Doing this on a daily basis, once a week, twice a week, are we paying them a full-time salary, a part-time salary? Is there any coordination there? 3 days a week? I mean, if we're paying, are we paying a full, I don't know how.
We originally were looking at starting at a 0.6 because we know that most of these visits will be during the evening hours because that's when families are together with their children at home because our students should be in school during the school day. However, when they begin to really get deeper into the school year and they're presenting to the multidisciplinary team because it's a different, as Gail said, a different gateway to get information about a family and help families, it may actually grow, but we were looking to start at about a 0.6 to begin with, all grant funded through the CRRSA.
Okay.
So that makes more sense to go with that. I would be amicable to go along with, obviously, anything that's gonna help the kids, especially transition back into school, because virtual students, we don't even know if people want their children to go back to school yet. It's gonna be hard enough, especially if it's paid for by a grant as well. And not for nothing, but we wanna keep reinstituting more and more positions into this district, and we have the money per se to do it, then why wouldn't we do something that's actually gonna benefit the kids? This is gonna actually benefit the kids, and it's a grant. I'm not amicable to discuss the director of guidance at this position at this point. I would be for talking about it and seeing what the situation is, because I would prefer to also look into adding another AP at the high school if we were gonna do that, and make that an AP that actually oversees guidance, which is what has been done in the past. Then that person doesn't only oversee 14 or 17 people, they oversee all of the children as well. It's more broad. That's just my opinion on it and what I would be for, but it'd be something I think that we should speak about.
Okay, I'm going to give you my input as a director of guidance. We had people going in and helping, but we never really had a director of guidance the way we did for around, 3 years? 2 years? He was not good, he's better than good. And if you have a high school student, especially one that's going to college or any type of schooling or military, he knew how to handle, and he was educating our guidance counselors and making everyone better. He was helping the parents, he was helping the students, he was teaching our guidance counselors to be better than they are, and he was let go. I personally would like to see him come back because he's an asset to every one of you sitting there and everyone in this community. Educators, a lot of parents went to college, but they still used him for many reasons when he was here. It was a shame that he had to leave. And I'm really probably one of the most disappointing moments of my career here on the school board. And I really would like to even actually invite him, but that's up to the board, the teacher that we had to let go back because he was so good for your kids. So good.
We wouldn't have had to.
That's my stand, director. Let's move
I know, but
on.
we wouldn't have had to get rid of him had there not been an error with the energy performance, or that was what I was told, I guess,
Okay.
a month later. So, but that is the truth, Lee. Had we known that we had up to 16 million, up to 8 million, up to whatever they were telling us, that we didn't have. One
Okay,
day we
then
were
we
told
should
we were
just
broke,
vote to
the
get-
next day we're training money. I don't know about you, but this district lacks transparency.
Okay, let's go on to other questions I have. Okay, let me go back to
Not directed at you. I know that you're brand new here. Happy to have you.
the ruler program. Can I ask this question about the ruler program? Did a survey go out to students? I met a student where surveys, she said that she answered a survey,
That was the SEL survey I was referring to?
but nothing was done with it.
No, no, madam, something was done with it. It was helping drive services. We had,
But did it help the child that wrote the whatever she wrote?
well, every student, specifically, I can tell you this because I've spoken with every building and there was follow-up after department meetings. Every building, every team received copies and they had to disaggregate the data, identify the student, and they followed up personally with the student. And then it helped drive services.
Okay, because I just heard a little different, but you know.
I have evidence of that.
Okay, all right, so I just wanted to ask that question. And then, when it comes to drugs, you know, you hear the talk because of COVID, there's more drugs, there's more deaths. Do you know anything about has been going on in Connecticut? Has it been worse for us, or has anyone picked up on that? Or is it the same as before? You know, we just have a drug problem like everyone else, but not any worse before or after COVID. I don't have the answer to that.
It was not revealed. The SEL survey went out to both students and parents. It was volitional, but it went out and it was not revealed to be an indicator. What the indicator that was most prevalent was the missing of school, depression from missing friends and the socialization.
Okay.
And when there were any indicators that were questionable, because we looked at the proportion of the responses, they were statistical, the staff followed up with each student individually.
Okay, all right. Now, is Dr. Dewey in the picture at all, coming in to speak to parents and or students or both? We still have the issue, other than I don't understand how they're going to handle when marijuana becomes legal. I don't know how the school districts are going to handle that. That's going to be a whole new ball game. But I'm wondering about, you know, Dr. Dewey, who is probably the best piece of information any parent and any student can get. Has he thought about, you know?
Absolutely. He is on the agenda, as well as the vaping cessation program that I had outlined a year ago. But those two things were put on hold only because of COVID and the limited entry into the schoolhouse. So once we can resume as normal and invite programs in, then I will make that happen.
Okay, and the parent piece, you know, I only know what I know from exposure. How are we working with parents and students as a family? I know I can speak to OBM because I went there, and I know the teacher had retired by now, but she had a parenting program, which I went to as a parent, and then I went to as a board member to listen. Do we have anything in place that we might want to do, maybe not this year, but in the future? Because those parents really had little issues, not big issues. Some had big issues. And they took the time to want to learn and be helped. We have anything of that plan in the future?
That too is on the list. That I agree with you. I know exactly which parent workshop you're speaking of. I too have observed it at least four different occasions. That was done during the school day, typically at lunch, and the attendees ranged anywhere from 10 to 14 people, and it was a 6 to 8 week session of various workshops. So there was definite value. So in addition to the parent workshop that we will bring to the broader population, that's specialized in communication and adolescence. So we can look at that again.
Okay, and the last and my most passionate piece is the anti-bullying initiative. And once again, I could speak to OBM. We had a teacher who retired a number of years ago, and she was wonderful. That building we're all in. And everyone in that building knew we're all in. You can't stop a bully from being a bully, but they knew how to handle a bully. Now, we're looking to spend money on certain things, but wouldn't it be good to see if you can find a teacher that's interested in doing something like that and paying a teacher a stipend if she's interested, really truly interested on making everyone all in, or whatever she wants to call it, and doing all the things that, or teacher, I'm sorry, can initiate in a school building. Because, I watched the movie Wonder, and I watched it with the kids, and I saw one little girl crying. It broke my heart to see how hurt she was because she was bullied. And everyone kind of overlooked. No one even saw her. She sat in the back. Actually, she sat right next to me. And I just let it go because she was trying to hide those tears. No one picked up on it. No one talked about it. Teacher didn't talk about it. No one saw it. How do you handle that? I've walked down a hallway and I've seen kids go like this with their head down. And I would turn and say, what's wrong with that child? She's bullied. Or him. What more can we do? Seriously, I'm not kidding, I'm not exaggerating. It hurts when I see this. What can we do to help our kids deal with being bullied? You're not going to stop the bullying. The movie Wonder was great. It shows in the movie which parent taught their child to be a bully, which parent taught their child to be understanding and loving and forgiving, which parent understood their child. I mean, the movie is a curriculum-based movie. It's not just a regular movie. You could build a whole curriculum around that movie. It could go all year long if you have the right people there talking about it all year, not just three segments and it's over. It's a curriculum. You need a teacher in that building to take that curriculum and work on it. If she has to show segments of it at lunchtime or call people in, that's creative thinking. Having a speaker come in and talk about bullying means absolutely nothing. It's 45 minutes out of the classroom. But having people in the building that are constantly working on it, constantly signs are being up, constantly discussions are being had, we could stop kids from being hurt.
Lee, you want to know something? Did you see? I actually went to the Wonder. It was beautiful. I was in the classroom in RMS with Mrs. Santo, and it was done wonderfully. And I don't know where you were, but where I was, the two teachers walked around. There was a mental health social worker, was it? It was a social worker, the lady in there. And they walked around, they checked on everyone. They were checking on me because I was crying next to Gail. I said it was very sad, like what you were watching and what they were, and they would stop the movie and they would talk about something and then they'd stop the movie. Right. And it's very profound.
I know, but three times and then it's over.
No, I understand that, but do you realize, have you gone to freshman awareness? Because I went to freshman awareness the last few years and I have been blown away by what they do. The high school freshman awareness has totally blown me away. I have not left one of those without getting upset. Like, I was upset for what was going on. And then I was in a classroom with Mylin, and I didn't know we were actually having to get involved. Remember? The guy, one of the teachers came over to me and said, you have to do the paper too. I was like, oh no, I'm not talking in public. And he said, oh no, you are. And it was very sad to hear some of the things that some of the children said. But I really think people don't give enough credit to freshman awareness. Freshman awareness went about they have speakers about bullying, speakers about fitting in, it was just, I really, really became a big fan. So, I mean, it's something you might want to check out this year. Seriously, it was beautiful.
May I respond? Yes, may I respond, please? Yes, so Ms. Lee, I know that you were very, very involved in OBMS, and you've been a board member for many, many years. And actually, you were one of the original board members on the anti-bullying committee.
I know.
And we have the DASA posters that I just ordered several hundred of them because I noticed in many of the classrooms in the district, they're getting worn and tattered because policy says that every room should have a DASA poster. So you raise a good point, but if I may just say two things, Madam. The Wonder was not presented as the end-all be-all. I know how passionate the district is about that, and I agree with what Jackie had said. I observed those classes on 4 different occasions and never with the same social worker. And the rapport between the teacher and the social worker was very engaged, and it was truly collaborative teaching. More importantly, in each of the 10 schoolhouses or equal to that, the DASA week is, while it's designated, our initiatives and our focus on anti-bullying is not only in February. That's the 1 week that we designate in the district so everyone has a common goal and we speak the same language. What I'm going to focus on this year as part of the mental health bulletin that I was speaking of, our initiatives, I would like them to be more common and more similar so there's consistency in all grades. But please do not think there is DASA and anti-bullying initiatives reinforced in every grade level. Since I brought in the training and taught them, and coordinated the presenters to teach the strategies to grades K through 12. That took 6 years. Now, admittedly, our students have aged out. So what I think I need to do is focus on the K through 5 elementary classes and have them resume the role-playing strategies again. Because in relational skills, when you say relational skills, it's not just getting along. It's a role play of Johnny telling Billy he's not allowed to play the game. And we want Sally to come and tell Billy, you can come on my team and be the upstander. So that's a form of strategy.
Right, but shouldn't this be going on? I mean, it can't stop.
But in every health lesson, K through 5, in a unit, we have the bullying. What I think I'd like to do is revisit the skill sets for the older classes, but it's never been put aside. It's part of relational skills. It's part of social emotional learning. You will see it more commonly across the district, I promise you. You'll see the notices, but it is done in every building.
Okay, but I really would like to see someone get a stipend if they're interested in taking it to the next step, like it was Teresa Allen that did it at OBM.
But almost every building.
And I applauded
Yes.
her for, I haven't been in all the buildings, so I can't say I know what's going on, but I applauded her for the amount of, the initiative that she put into that building at the time. And I'd like to see it in all the buildings. And there's, if we have a couple years of a stipend that we can give out all this money, we got all this money, let's use it.
Lee, if you went this year, I went to, and Linda would be able to tell you, when I went in Cherokee, that was Mental Health Wellness Day, and you would have been so impressed if you came. I
It's
walked
not
around.
one day doesn't matter to me.
But Lee, it does matter because those kids that were there were talking about it for weeks later. It wasn't just one day to them. It was, this teacher was so cool. He played with me. The principal kicked the kickball. I mean, they had a good time. And really, in light of what went on this year, those are the things that I encourage you to go to this year. Because if you go and see it, maybe you would understand it is going on throughout the district. You're just not seeing it. You're not witnessing it.
I agree, because Jackie and I went through several things, and what I did appreciate, especially on the elementary level, they sort of had their Zen rooms, and there was somebody that was teaching kids how to decompress, how to handle stress, how to deal and work through stress. These were really positive things.
Yeah, I went to that one.
So again, I have to concur with Jackie. There's a lot of positive things going on, and if you don't go to actually see these things, like I have, but mostly Jackie lately, They're very impressive. Getting back to, because I was the first one that actually had a question or a comment. So let's go back to the guidance counselor. So now, Gail, let's recap. You want a head of guidance, you want a 0.5, and then we have a 1,
A 0.6 at Nate Rowe.
There are two positions within the
she's saying a
grant.
point, wait, you're saying it's a 1, well, originally it was a 1, but now it's not a 1, but now it's a 0.6 and a 0.5? So you,
0.5 and a 1.
but those are two separate?
Right.
Okay, so why, so if our mission here is to worry about the mental health component, and I think in this year particularly, you're going to have a lot of children that are gonna be apprehensive, they're gonna be anxious. Why would I skimp and do a 6 if I'm getting a grant, and why don't I just do the 1? So I'd rather do the 1. I mean, why would?
If it be math
you-
again, you're gonna have even bigger problems.
Exactly, so you got one person for 5,500 kids, and you wanna sit there and dissect, that one particular position? I think it's crazy. Make it a 1.
Okay, let's then move on. Do we want a
Excuse me, I'm
consensus?
speaking.
Oh, I thought maybe,
No, I'm not done. I'm speaking.
Okay.
Now, as far as the 0.5, I'm assuming that will help you with the contact tracing, because I know that's pretty significant. That's a job on its own.
Thank you for, that was a sizable job. It was an interesting year. Yes, but that person will assist in PPS and then also serve as SEL coordinator.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna ask you, Linda, as far as the director of guidance and these positions that Gail is asking very nicely and with a very beautiful presentation, all goes to supporting mental health, and our board goal is always to support mental health. Well, I wouldn't even be questioning so closely if Gail is asking for these things. She's got her hand on the pulse of what she needs. I'm not gonna question you, Gail. Whatever you want, you can have. Because it's gonna benefit our children's mental health.
And one last thing I'm gonna just throw out there. Many people I do say negative things very often lately, unfortunately, when I'm sitting on this board. But I have to tell you, you did an exceptional job this year, and people may not realize that you took on a second job. When other districts hired somebody, they hired somebody to take on the COVID. This lady right here took on the COVID, dealt with it amazingly, with emails coming in left and right. I know I was annoyed one day too, because nobody wanted to hear that little Johnny is in the nurse's office and now we gotta go get him tested. And all the anger was directed towards her, and she took it one by one and she fixed it, and you did an amazing job. And I don't think you get enough credit for it, but I'm gonna give you the credit right now. You really deserve it.
Sunday night, we are getting an email. I'm like, it's gotta be Gail, because who else is gonna be sending us an email on Sunday night? So Gail, I can't, I'd like to piggyback off of Jackie. I agree 100%. You've had the most challenging job, trying to deal with our children, to deal with our parents, to deal with our staff. I mean, kudos to you, and I really deeply appreciate, what you went through this year. So for you to ask for these things, I think is so minimal compared to what you had put in this last year particularly, so
Well,
thank you.
I thank you for that. I thank the support of the district. And then I also have a fabulous team in PPS who work just as hard. Thank you.
so do we have a consensus on hiring a director of guidance? A 0.1 and a 0.5? Need a consensus?
I'm for a 0.5 and a 1. I'm for discussing the director of guidance for the next meeting after we can sit down and look at the finances as well.
Mylan?
On for whatever Gail wants.
Okay, so there's one for just the 0.5 and the 1 point, and there's,
No, I want everything that Gail wants.
and then another vote for the guidance and. the
I agree with
0.5.
what Jackie said.
You want, you
That we
don't,
need to discuss the director of
guidance or
guidance. yes.
more?
We need to discuss the financials, Lee. I can't just say yes to something and then you're just gonna tell me it's a $200,000 salary. I'm just saying it's something we really need to discuss, and it's not off the table by no means, but we have a meeting in 2 weeks. Or 3 weeks.
I thought we discussed it, but 2 weeks is not a problem for me.
I also agree with Jackie. I'm for the 0.5 and the 0.6, but I'd like to talk about the director of
It's not a
guidance a little more.
0.5, 0.6 anymore, it's a 0.5, 1 point, and 1.0.
I think the
I'm
mental,
for those two and to talk about the director of guidance a little more.
thank you.
Okay? Mr. Moran, principal of the high school. Your turn, you're up.
Okay, thank
Back
you.
there.
Okay, we go to my first slide. Initiatives to meet the social and emotional needs of our students. How the high school is going to meet the needs of students that are coming back to us in September. You can go to the first slide, please. Okay, ninth grade orientation. I sent a school messenger out today to the ninth grade parents. That'll be on 8/25 between 9 and 10:30. I also want to include the 10th grade students who are fully virtual this school year. So these students have not been in school since some of them March of their 8th grade year. So they don't even know what the layout of the high school is. They don't know where the classrooms are. So the students who were fully virtual this year will now be returning sophomores. They are also invited to the orientation on 8/25. I sent out the school messenger to the ninth grade parents today. I'll have a list of the 10th grade students tomorrow who are fully virtual this year, and I'll send out that same information out on school messenger to invite the 10th graders if they want to come in. They'll hear the same orientation that the ninth graders did. They'll meet some of the support staff. We'll go with some pertinent information with them, and then they will also have an opportunity to walk the halls to follow their schedule to alleviate some of their first day of school anxiety. I'll also invite the 11th and 12th graders in who are fully virtual. I know the 11th and 12th graders were in the building before, maybe even for a couple of years if they're 12th graders. But if they want to come in with a copy of their schedule, the 11th graders can come in between 11 and 11:30. The 12th graders can come in between 11:30 and 12. It's up to them. They don't have to do it. We'll be in the halls to assist all of the students, the 9th and 10th graders as well, to answer questions, to point them in the right direction, and anything they need from us. But the 11th and 12th graders are free to come up to the building as well if they were fully virtual last year. The week of 9/20/21, we're going to have our grade level assemblies that we unfortunately weren't able to have since March of 2020. So that will be in person, and we'll go over the rules and regulations for all the kids when we get rolling first couple weeks of September. Okay, next slide. Okay, social emotional wellness initiatives for this coming school year. We have a school psychologist who will review potential indicators of suicidal ideations and offer prevention strategies to staff during teacher orientation day on 9/2/21. This school psychologist has been trained to recognize the signs. And she took a course and she was certified to do that. So it wasn't just somebody that we picked at random. She has the certification to train the staff to what to look for students who may be struggling. The school counselors, psychologists, social workers will then push into the classes to review student mental health. That'll be get rolling probably in the first quarter, but they'll go into the classrooms to check on the kids, introduce themselves, tell them where they are, what they do, how they can help them in any way. Stress management workshops will be conducted for students throughout the school year. I had some AP teachers come to me at the end of this past year, concerned about some of their students who everybody thinks has it figured out and everything's coming easy to them. A lot of those students were really struggling. So we are going to have stress management workshops. We originally were going to do it just for those classes, but we're going to do it for all the students. That'll be throughout the year. That'll be coordinated with either school psychologists, social workers, but that is something we have planned for the students this year. Okay, next slide. During United We Stand for a Drug-Free Community Week in October, we're going to have wellness days that will be coordinated in the phys ed classes. I spoke to Mr. Mallory. He was pretty excited to bring in the wellness day. We'll have outside vendors, similar to what I think they did down at Cherokee, obviously, but on a larger scale up here. So through all of the phys ed classes, both days, all the kids will get a taste of a wellness day. Implementation of a mindfulness room. We do have a mindfulness room. It actually got finished painted today. We've ordered a lot of stuff off Amazon and Etsy to set the room up. We have a couple social workers and a couple teachers who are really involved in mindfulness. So the social workers looked at, what they think these could use in a mindfulness room. So that room will be, it's a full-time, it's dedicated completely to mindfulness. It's not like it's 2 periods a day. It's all day, every day. How that room will be manned, we're still working on the logistics, but that is a room that we have here in the high school on the first floor, close to guidance and close to the social workers and close to the school psychologists. It's right across the hall from all of them. So I think it's a perfect location. And we'll also have the continuation of the anti-bullying club. Obviously, they couldn't do as much, like all clubs, they couldn't do as much as they would like to, but we have dedicated teachers, a security guard is a member of the anti-bullying club, students. It's a great discussion that they have, and they meet with the kids regularly, and it's a great program, so we're happy to continue that this coming school year. Next slide. Social emotional wellness staff requests. An attendance officer, CRRSA funded as well. An administrator, preferably, to monitor student attendance, to recognize patterns in that attendance, to create relationships with students and their families, collaborate with mental health staff. So we're talking about all the initiatives that we have for students who will be in the building every day, great attendance. We're looking for somebody to come on board to meet with the students who aren't in school every day. And if it's possible for this person, this attendance officer, if we have the outreach person going in the evenings, maybe this attendance officer can go during the day. If we know mom or dad or the guardian's home and the student's home, maybe they can go see what's going on. But we really want someone dedicated. The attendance piece is huge at the high school. So to have someone dedicated to the attendance piece and the students who are not coming to school on a regular basis, getting to know the families, I think is as important now, more than ever, coming off the school year that we've had. That is what we have planned for the high school. I'm free to answer any questions.
The mindfulness room, who goes into that mindfulness room?
Students who need to. We are going to introduce it to the students, not only at the freshman/sophomore orientation. We're going to introduce it to the students at the first couple of assemblies. We'll also invite the teachers to bring their students down just to see where it is and what it is all about. But it's open to all the students who need some mindfulness.
Okay, so what happened, I'm going to ask the question, what happened to the kids that used to go into the rap room? Where do they go now?
Well, they can go mindfulness, or they can go to in-school suspension. They won't have the choice, but it's, yes.
All right, but is mindfulness like the rap room?
No, it's not meant to be disciplinary.
Okay.
I like it, that's excellent. I'm all for it, 100% supportive.
Mr. Moran, the mindfulness room is available for any of their open periods. If they have a free period or a lunch period, they could just go in there?
Yes, and honestly, if they are struggling during a period where they have a class, if, that takes, precedence. If there's something going on, we're not going to tell them you can only come during a lunch period. Ideally, that's what we'd like, but if there's a situation where they know one of our social workers are in their second period and they're going through something, we'll allow them to go, we'll work it out with the teacher, but it'll be open as needed.
Can I ask you what
Wait,
exactly
I have one
is?
more question, Jackie.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
The nighttime person and the daytime person now for attendance. Do we have money in this grant to put a daytime person in? Can we do that also?
Yes, Mr. Middleman is nodding.
Yes, okay, so
Well,
do we need a consensus on that?
Wait,
Wait.
questions about it. There's more questions that need to be asked, not just keep adding things. The grant isn't meant just to hire more and more people. It's meant to do things for the kids as well. And so my question would be, what exactly is the attendance officer, one? What exactly is the reason we need an attendance officer, since we're being told that there's less students in the school than there's ever been in a downslide for how many years now? 10? And, I mean, I'm just trying to figure this out. It's like we're adding. Let's add more and more people. This is not against you, Mr. Moran, this is just in general. We're adding more and more people, but we're not adding maybe to the correct people. We're adding, so my question is, what is this? What would be the purpose that we need it?
Report back
And-
versus nighttime.
What, Lee? Lee, I'm talking. Rude.
That's
Oh, I'm
rude.
sorry, I didn't.
No, but I'm just trying to find out, like, what is an attendance officer? What is that actually gonna be for? And could it be utilized better somewhere else? Is there something more we could do for the students? And what exactly can we do for you? Is there anything that the high school needs, in your opinion, that maybe the board can do for you? And the other thing is, I guess, for Mr. Middleman is, Dean, is it gonna be enough money? And how long is this money gonna be funded? I mean, a grant isn't forever. A grant, so once we have these people, it's not like, oh, the grant's gone, now we're not gonna hire you. That's something that the other board members need to understand, that once the grant is over, we have to cover these salaries. These are more and more salaries that you're gonna have to cover after this year. It's not like, oh, the grant's gone,
Who
we'll get
does-
rid of you.
Who does attendance now? Somebody has to do attendance, no?
Probably been for many, many years.
This past, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let me just address the staffing other than the director of guidance. These are, what would happen is, these are teachers on special assignment. So they would be members of our current staff. The CRSSA funds, or the CRRSA, yeah, would pay for the leave replacement to cover that teacher's position. So it's not a permanent position that would go on indefinitely. And when the money would run out, then the position would then be, that teacher would be returned to the classroom.
But so then what we were just told is, the director of guidance position is not under this grant. We would have to cover that.
That would be from the general.
And that's
correct.
the largest salary we're talking about. I'm asking a question, Lee.
So, yeah, and that's the intent, when we're planning for the grant funding to support the students, it's, if we're adding positions, it's positions that we know we're not going to have to, add to the general fund at a certain point. These are temporary positions based on a need that's been identified. And I think, Mr. Moran can,
Are there any other needs, though, that Mr. Moran has had and requested, and we have not maybe spoken about?
Can I just jump in for a second? Because I think on something. I'm looking right now, this looks like the dean of students, and you guys are just trying to call it something else. Yes, not all of the responsibilities are laid here, but you're giving me the dean of students just with a different name. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just how I'm looking at this right now.
I just want to answer a couple questions. Marisol and Jackie had similar questions. Marisol had asked who had done attendance in the past. In the past, we've had an assistant principal who oversaw guidance. And then we had a dean, like Mylan's asking now, who oversaw guidance. So, I'm sorry, attendance, not guidance. So we have had administrators in this building. Right now, it should be 3 assistant principals at the high school. The attendance piece itself is time consuming. The dean who was doing it, it was an all day, every day. He probably saw 25 to 30 kids a day. And when he met with the student, it wasn't like, all right, let me give you a pass back to class. It was now let me follow up the social workers and let me follow up the guidance counselor. There was a lot of follow up to the students that he had met with. So ideally, to answer Jackie's question, it would be, an assistant principal in charge of guidance. In charge of attendance, or it would be that dean position. I know Mylan says this looks like the dean position. There's a lot of similarities. The only difference for the assistant principals here that a dean isn't able to do observations, so they're still, they are still responsible for a lot of observations, and assistant principal could. So that's the difference between those two positions. So I hope that answers your questions about.
What exactly are you for? What would help you the most for the success of the next year and really in the coming years that you see would be most beneficial to you? As a new principal and you've been a long time assistant principal here, what do you see would be the most beneficial? I want your opinion because I'm not an educator and I appreciate it.
My opinion would be another assistant principal to take care of the attendance piece or the guidance piece if we didn't hire a director of guidance. But if we had a director of guidance, then the new assistant principal could worry about, attendance and
Could they do both or is it too much?
could they do what? The guidance?
If you had 4 assistant principals, as it was in years prior, and I know we have less students, so I was one of the people who wasn't for a 4th principal years ago, but would it be feasible to be able to have a assistant principal that's in charge of attendance and guidance, or would it be that you have to have one assistant principal that's in charge of guidance and their other duties, and one that's in charge of the attendance?
Well, it's not necessary that one could do guidance and one could do attendance, and we could split up the other duties. So the answer is yes, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same person, but, we could have one take care of attendance, one take care of guidance, if that was, we had a guidance person.
The other thing that, we kind of, when we think about head of guidance, we keep thinking it's just a focus on the high school. We have to keep in mind it's a K through 12. So when we put in, a guidance person, I know there was mention of having an AP that have a dual role as the guidance piece and also having their role as a normal job description of an AP. I think having a guidance counselor of a grades K through 12, again, there is also the focus on the middle schools. This person has a lot of responsibilities. What we had before, I think it was most concentrated at the high school level when we had one of our APs who did a lot of the guidance work. But they were not in charge of what was happening in the middle schools or what was happening at the elementary level. So getting back to this, so now I heard you mention that you'd like a 4th AP. So when, how do I explain that to my taxpayers? When years ago we had a staff of 2,000, an enrollment of 2,000 kids at the high school, and that was before we had a dean and before we had a guidance position. There were 3 APs and 1 principal.
When we're there, we had I've been here since 2004. There were 5 assistant principals as recently, I think, as 2000 and I don't want to say the wrong date. And then an assistant principal went down to Ronk. So we were down from 5 assistant principals to 4 assistant principals, and then we had the dean. So then we lost the 4th assistant principal. So we had at least 4 administrators. They might have been 3 APs and a dean. There were other times it was 5 APs. So, we're down about 1,750 kids. When it was 2,050 kids, we did have 5 assistant principals here.
Okay, I keep hearing different. I wasn't here at that time, so I'm just telling you.
But
So now that you have, so roughly you're going to have about 1,500 kids?
No, about 18, 1,750, 1,770.
Okay, so you're going to have 17. Okay. All right.
But are you looking for an attendance officer if you can't have an AP?
Yes.
Okay, so right now, we're back, it can be,
This is something that needs discussion as well. Like, we can't just sit at a
that's-
table and say, motion, and let's just,
Becky, excuse me, I was speaking.
well, I'm asking you.
Okay, I'm not finished yet. But you're asking for an attendance officer, correct? That's what was in your,
Yes.
and that would be coming out of, would that be coming out of the fund, that grant?
Yes.
So Jackie raised an important point about positions and eventually having those positions be in the general fund. What the CRRSA has provided us is the ability to have transitional programs. So quite frankly, we know that anxiety and other mental health issues manifest in kids in different ways. Some of those kids will act out at home. Some of those kids will act out in their classrooms. Some of those kids will absent themselves from school. So we're concerned that there'll be a volume of students who act out in a variety of ways, and we need to put in place transitional people. So one of the things that we talked about at the high school level was having someone who could devote their total day to looking at attendance and see if there's patterns. Because we might have kids who decide they don't show up on Mondays and Fridays, and that could be a pattern that shows that they're actually potentially using drugs on the weekend. And if we don't have someone looking at that closely on a daily basis, that child can fall through the cracks if they do well in their academic courses. So what we're looking right now, and what Mrs. Santo and Mr. Moran have asked for, are transitional positions that over time, once we're transitioned back fully within the next year or two, post-COVID, which we hope will happen sooner rather than later, these positions may go away because we may now have our kids back in. We've got less of a volume of mental health issues that we're dealing with because the kids have been in school for an extended period of time. And there may be a time that we say, you know what, this attendance officer really should be something that we put in the general fund because of the amount of kids that they've recognized and brought to mental health, whether it's social workers or psychologists or guidance counselors to help them along. So right now, what we're asking is for positions that are transitional to try to help the predicted volume of mental health issues that we as educators expect to face as we move into the next school year.
While I am very, very big on mental health, and I have no issue with mindfulness rooms, wellness days, bringing in extra mental health people for helping kids on a daily basis. Some of the things now we're asking seem like we're just looking to move money around, and fiscally, I just don't feel it's being responsible to the taxpayer when there are other ways to do things. The director of guidance was just asked of us, and it appeared the perception that it was going to be under this grant, and it's not. It would be money that we would have to pay, and that's not a job that's going to leave after. That's not a job that's going to go away in 2 years. So I understand what you're saying about an attendance officer, but the whole point is we had another assistant principal this year, and there was ways to do things fiscally for less. We should entertain or discuss it deeper and look at what are some options. If you have an interim as a assistant principal, you would be better off knowing that that person's not staying, knowing that that money is only going to be for a year. What you're saying is, this is what we need. There are ways to do it and it be fiscally responsible. I just don't think that that's what we're doing. I think what we're doing is just okaying everything and just signing blank checks, and I don't want to do that. And Lee, I'm not going to rubber stamp everything just because we're asked.
No, that money is a grant. It has nothing to do with our budget.
If the money's not given to, let's say, an attendance officer, it could be given somewhere else. It could be a stipend to somebody else, or it could be something else, to work with the kids, to have more mental health working with the kids. People doing whatever it is, overtime or extra clubs. I love the idea of the bullying club. That's great. Things like that. This doesn't make sense. We're just adding and adding.
Well, that's what Ms. Moran said they desperately need up there.
What he said is he needs an assistant principal if we all opened our ears. What he said was, I need an assistant principal. That's what he said.
I heard him. I think, we have parents that are patiently waiting to speak. Asking for, and then this way, when we meet again at the next board meeting, we'll be more informed. We'll ask our questions ahead of time and not take up any more public's time. So I'd like to thank you, Mr. Moran, for.
Can I just add something to Mr. Moran, if I could? Mr. Moran, for the 9th grade orientation, if you could reconsider the time, only because that's during fall sports tryouts, so a lot of the freshmen will be out on the field doing the tryouts till 10:30.
I spoke to Mr. Mallory about the tryouts, and he was going to reach out to the coaches and see if they could change the times and work around it.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving on to Board of Ed topics, the grant opportunities.
I thought it was public comment.
Can we make a motion to let us speak after the public? Let the public speak now, and then I'll speak after them?
I agree.
Okay, so we'll go to public comment.
And then we'll go back to board discussions after.
So you want to make a motion to move the agenda of public discussion up before board topics?
Okay.
Yes, Lisa. Motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we'll go to public comment. I'll now open the floor for the public comment portion of the agenda. Comments should be kept as brief as possible and relate to school matters. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping up to the podium. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for one or more topics. If members of the audience speak out of turn, the board will take an immediate recess until order is restored.
Oh, so she
We
added
have to keep
something.
this civil.
Wait a second, is that Nick?
Yeah, that's
Did you-
added.
This is what I'm talking about, when there's meetings and we're not at them.
Yeah, that's.
Was that added during your agenda meeting with the superintendent, and was the board not notified again?
You're
That's
speaking
new.
out of turn.
Okay, yeah, I'm speaking out of turn because it's again a transparency issue. Was that added without the board's knowledge?
It's the agenda for the board president for the meeting. You didn't question the first segment that I added. Why you
Lee,
question
I've
this?
questioned, if we want to give transparency to this, to the people tonight, let's tell them the truth. I sent several annoying emails to all of you in regards to transparency. I sent them because you and the superintendent have a meeting, a board president and the super. And all of a sudden, everything's changed. Everything's changed. Jackie can't get any information, can't get paperwork without a consensus, all sorts of things that have not been done for the last 2 years. And by the way, without a board vote or consensus to change it. So yes, I'm questioning, why is transparency not being given? And that is actually on for me to speak about tonight.
Now, right now, it's not for you, and right now it's for
Well,
the
you
community.
added something that's
for the
ridiculous.
I added
Okay, we're
two
gonna
things.
tell people that they're not allowed to speak.
You just said
You
you were
need,
gonna close
you
down the
need the
meeting.
Board
You
of
didn't
Ed's
put it-
approval, a consensus.
You're taking a recess. Wow, okay.
So we're gonna start taking a recess if people get annoyed. That's just bizarre. How come you didn't do that for the 20-something
It's
years
not
that you
what I
were
said
on?
to the community. I'm not going to argue. Who would like to come up and
know,
speak
that's
first?
Yeah, that is new.
Please come up. Oh,
7 years I'm on the board. I never heard of that before.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Burke. My daughter is an upcoming 7th grader at OBMS, and I'm the secretary of the Oakdale Bohemian Middle School PTA. I am also a 22-year veteran social studies teacher in the Harborfield School District. I am here tonight to speak on behalf of our district population that I feel was truly marginalized this past year, and that is of our music students. My experience was extremely unique this past school year as I was on both sides of the screen. From the first day of the 2020-21 school year, I was teaching in the homes of all my students. I was on camera in person from day one. After 22 years, I was a first-year teacher again. I can say I was extremely fortunate that my district provided ample professional development to help me teach online as well as in person. We as a faculty also felt tremendously supported by our central administration, Board of Education, union, as well as the community at large. They knew what was being asked of us was a Herculean feat, and they trusted that we were the professionals in the classroom who would be charged with the brunt of this experiment. Believe it or not, it was my music colleagues I felt the worst for. They were being told by the CDC, the state health department, and the governor that what they had dedicated their lives to physically could not be done. Music could not be played in person. It was a hazard. For as bad as I felt for my colleagues, my heart broke for our students. But most importantly, my own child. My child is a musician. She is a performer. Her mind is stimulated by sound. As a student at Idle Hour, her motivation was to go to school to play in Ms. Villing's orchestra and to sing in Ms. Dougherty's chorus. Just like so many others, when COVID hit, her team of musicians was disbanded, and as a 5th grader, she never got to say goodbye to her coaches. My daughter is extremely fortunate because as an only child, we are able to keep up her music lessons online, and as soon as we felt it was safe, the first people allowed back in our home were her violin and guitar teachers. But I think about all those kids like my daughter who lived for music and it was taken away. Kids whose parents couldn't pay for lessons and instead lost months of instruction. Many people in the community might say to themselves, so what? All the kids suffered. And I'm saying that is not the case. Beginning in March of 2021, things began to change for some kids all over the island. As gathering regulations were loosened, our student athletes were given the opportunity to play again. They could go back to doing what they loved. And in places like Harborfields, my music colleagues, with the utmost support of administration, the BOE, union leadership, and the community, got our musicians performing again. Harborfield's kids had been playing in person since the first day of school. My colleagues, again with the support of our leadership, had thought outside the box and did their absolute best to keep music education a viable part of our students' day. Rehearsals were held outside until they couldn't be. Our groups were spread throughout the auditoriums, and they were playing together as a team all year. Therefore, by May and June, kids attending Harborfields High School and OMS Middle School were involved in theatrical productions, as well as concerts performed for the community. It was a tremendous amount of work for anyone involved because protocols had not disappeared. But with administrative, board, and union leadership support, it was possible. The same artistic activities were not taking place at Connecticut. Connecticut wrestlers could roll around on a mat together, and basketball players could win a game as a team by May, but Connecticut musicians and actors couldn't come together to perform for spectators. The last time I saw my child play her violin in public was December of 2019. This past spring and summer, I was able to see her on stage singing and dancing at Creative Ministries, which means if you can pay for it, your child can do it. And I find that extremely unfair. Regardless of what mitigations are put in place for this upcoming school year, I am pleading with our district to give music back to our kids. Schools did not become the super spreaders we feared. All districts spent thousands of dollars on plastic shields that probably harbored more germs than any one child singing in a chorus. Connecticut has an award-winning music program that was initially stagnated by the pandemic. But unfortunately, based on decisions made by central administration, the BOE, and union leadership, faith was not placed in the hands of the educators to make the best out of the situation. They were just told, we can't do that. I do believe science is important in decision-making, and I am not asking for it to be ignored. It was stated at the last board meeting that Dr. Adams is waiting on guidance from the
Time
state.
is almost over.
I got it, Lee. Waiting for the state in terms of decisions to be made for the upcoming year. Governor Cuomo's emergency powers have run out. He no longer has the authority he once did in all of this. The CDC, the state DOH, NYSED can give recommendations, but they are not law. The school district receives a tremendous amount of tax revenue from the community. Therefore, it is the BOE and administration's responsibility to determine what is best for each individual district, do what is right for all kids, for our teachers, for our staff, not just certain groups. Make sure that music is brought back to Connecticut as a core subject this year. Our kids deserve it. I would like to possibly, since I know my time is up, my daughter, who is 12, who really did want to come tonight, but it's now 10 after 10 and I wasn't gonna let her come tonight. She did write you a statement, and I know I've run out of time, but I got it. I know I've run out of time, but at some point, if possible, if anybody.
Do you want to read?
I would like to read it, but Lee is cutting me off.
I'd like to make a motion to give her another minute or two to read her statement.
I mean, you're
Can I
gonna
get
give
a-
everyone the motion.
Can I get a motion for another minute? We've given.
Motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Hi, my name is Bryn Burke. I will be in 7th grade at OBMS in September. I am a member of both the orchestra and chorus. I have played the violin and sung in the chorus since 3rd grade. For me, being up on stage has always felt right. It feels like home. That's how I know I'm a performer. Some of my favorite school memories are from nights of concerts and talent shows. Me and my friends would always practice before going on stage and give each other a thumbs up before the curtains were drawn. The cheers from the crowd made me feel so good and proud. After we got off stage, we would, I'm sorry, I can't read my kids. Okay. After we got off stage, we would cheer on the band kids. In elementary school, which was the last time I played in a concert, the majority of the band and orchestra students would return to the stage to be in the chorus part of the concert. I remember one year we all played ukuleles, which was so fun. I also play guitar, so I loved playing ukulele with Mrs. Dougherty. Concerts make me feel like I have worked for something, unlike this year where we just sat in orchestra class counting down the minutes until the bell. Many of the kids didn't take it seriously, maybe because there wasn't anything to work towards. I asked my parents to quit orchestra during this past school year. They said I couldn't because hopefully things will be better next year. Before the pandemic, I was chosen for both Skamia and LISFA. I loved playing in both of those orchestras, and I felt proud to represent my school district. After really not having an orchestra experience this year, I auditioned for the Metropolitan Youth Orchestra, and I was accepted. I'm really excited about getting into this orchestra, and will start playing with them in person in the fall. Us music kids had to sit out this year, while sports still eventually ran. Sports are an extremely important part of middle school and high school. I plan on trying out for a couple teams next year. The 6th graders couldn't be on a sports team this year. No sports and no performances. Music is just as important as sports. Studies have shown that participating in musical activities, playing an instrument, singing, or even listening to music can increase the function in children's brains. She must have copied this from somewhere. Music can also enhance language skills, math skills, memory, coordination, social skills, teamwork, and so much more. Music is self-expression. It is a huge part of what makes me who I am. I don't want to quit school music, but I can't do another year like this one. So thank you for letting me read that.
Thank you.
I would say good evening, but it's very late, so good night. This is, of course, regarding the unmasking, and I know that we mentioned before that you have no guidance, no direction yet, but I'm here to offer you some guidance from the people who pay for our children to go, the parents. And we have a petition that we're going to present to you. Currently has 420 signatures on it, and there are more that are on the way, which I will be dropping off at central office. And for this petition, we are not, sorry, my phone. Okay. The purpose of this petition is to advocate for a parent-guardian's choice, their right to choose. We are not asking you to ban masks or COVID vaccinations. We believe everyone has a right to do what is best for them. We are asking for a policy change that does not discriminate against any child in the district and supports every single Connecticut family, no matter where they stand on the issue. This policy change costs the district financially nothing. All it takes is compassion for the students. There is to be zero tolerance for judgment passed on children, whether or not they are masked or vaccinated. Every child deserves to be educated in the public school system should their parents or guardians wish that for them. By placing arbitrary health mandates on them, you are infringing on their rights to go to school. You will see evidence within this petition as to why these mandates are completely unnecessary. It has been proven over the last year and a half that children do not spread or fall ill from COVID in such a manner that supports placing COVID restrictions on them. There is zero instance of any COVID deaths amongst healthy children. They were masked and limited for one entire school year to protect adults. And since when do we use children and their health and well-being in order to protect adults? I'd give my life for my children. As an adult and a mom, I would never expect children to do the same for me, whether I birthed them or not. And the beauty of this petition is that if a parent does fear for their child's health or perhaps someone in their home, they still have the option to mask or vaccinate their child with no discrimination or judgment passed. They are free to do as they please, but neither they nor anyone else have the right to demand I do the same for my children. When are you, the district, going to stand up for the children who sacrificed an entire year and a half of their lives to protect you, to protect adults in the schools? They will never get that part of their youth back. They did their time. It is now your turn to do your time and help our children, free our children from these insane mandates. Thank you.
Do you want to hand the petition to?
I'd like to put a motion on the table so that the signatures, I know we've been getting a lot of parents writing in letters. We're going to, like you mentioned, we'll get more parent signatures. If we can just put a cover sheet onto that and just send it to the local politicians and Como and whoever's necessary, state education department, to let them know that we have pressure from our parents requiring freedom to have their choice of a mask and a vaccine. So I would like the board's permission to put a cover sheet on that.
I'm a yes.
So you want to make a motion to send the petition or have the district clerk send the petition to?
Yeah, I'd like to have a cover sheet on it, Linda, and.
Let's just wait for more petitions to come in
Yeah,
and just
no,
do it
she
at once.
said, no, she said more is coming in. When she lets, we'll wait another week or two to gather more in. And then Linda can draft a letter, and then the board can review it. And then if the board wants to make any changes to Linda's draft, and then we'll put as a cover sheet.
Yes?
I'm a yes to that.
I'm a yes.
So you should have a first or second for that motion, and then opportunity for discussion, and then vote.
I'll motion.
Second.
You know what the motion is.
Aye.
Next speaker?
So it sounds like the motion was to authorize the superintendent to draft a letter so that the petitions can be forwarded to local politicians and the governor and the state education department.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Hi. During the school campaigning, one of our new board members said, I feel that the community should have a voice, that my job would be to make sure your voice is heard and to fight for that. My question is, what are you going to do to make sure community voices are heard? Because in this room, the loudest voices are heard. When people do make comments that go against the loud voices, they are met with comments from the audience calling what they're saying stupid. During one BOE meeting, the mother of a then kindergarten student pleaded through tears for armed guards to not be put in schools. One person on the dais was smiling and laughed. I actually hope this was because they were not paying attention and not because of the passionate appeal the speaker gave. I'm sorry. I am speaking from experience when I say that this room can be intimidating if you don't have certain opinions. The rest of that quote that I started with was, I don't think that adding armed guards to the budget was the best way to get an accurate interpretation of the community's needs. Another quote was, I also believe that it should be decided by the community whether or not they are employed at district buildings. I'm not talking about armed guards right now, but what will you do to make sure that the whole community's voices are heard? Thank you.
Hello, we are Malaika and Ishla, Kanekwa High School graduates of 2021. Today we are here to represent the small Muslim population of the Kanekwa School District. A few months back, we started a petition on change.org to have an official day off for Eid al-Fitr, a day that includes morning prayer, dinner with loved ones, and the giving and receiving of gifts, which sounds a lot like Christmas, right? I want to quickly mention that the Sachem School District has put this request under review for the 2022 to 2023 school year. An official day off for the day of Eid. Eid. It's a Muslim.
We have spoken to multiple Muslim students throughout the district who share the same story of attending school on the day of Eid because parents were concerned their child would fall behind. One anonymous student in particular stated that it was really frustrating their freshman year because Eid was right around the time of Regents exams. And because classes were reviewing, her parents made her come to the school, which means that she missed the breakfast, feast, and prayer. And many immigrant Muslim parents are strict with school because the countries that they were raised in did not have the same opportunities that we are as lucky enough to have here, which means attending school is a priority.
Having off on Eid can be beneficial from non-Muslims too. It is a great learning opportunity, a good chance to learn about how different cultures celebrate this festive day, and also teach students how to appropriately ask about this day as well. Every single Ramadan, which is the month before Eid, people have asked us, do you speak Muslim? Oh, you starved for a month, or I've even been asked, what do your people eat for dinner? This is how ignorance can be avoided. A day's lesson on a widely followed religion is not enough to teach people about something so sacred to 1.8 billion people.
Eid doesn't occur on the same date yearly. It runs off of a moon calendar, so that means it does usually end, it begins after Ramadan ends. So every year it's slightly different. Usually it's predicted right beforehand, like a month or two. And the state has recognized non-religious holidays and other religious holidays as a reason to be off, but has not given Eid the recognition it deserves. I believe it takes one person, one school to make a change, and we'll hope that one day it does reach a state or national level. School districts such as East Meadow, Jericho, Syosset, Deer Park, Oyster Bay, and even New York City districts have granted the day off for Eid throughout their districts. We have shared this petition all over in the end, and we have received a little over 1,200 signatures with $100 in contributions going directly to change.org to spread the petition around. We seriously hope that you will take this request into consideration. While our time in the school is over, we want to ensure that future students have an easier time celebrating than we did.
Thank you very much for coming forward. Linda, can you put that on the executive session?
Okay, so I actually have a few questions. I know we discussed the universal assessment that was done. So my son is in self-contained due to low academics, and I knew nothing about this summer program. So how were parents notified about that for this year? Because I wasn't notified during my IEP meeting, none of that.
So for our special education population, we run the extended school year program. So students who are identified as having reading or math challenges this past year were invited to the ESY program.
Okay, so were they not a part of the universal assessment for that?
Generally, no.
Generally, no. Okay. Then I also had, Lee, you had said earlier when we started the meeting that right now we're following the summer guidance, correct? So can you clarify what that is? Are the students unmasked during the summer except on transportation? Is that?
So it's strongly recommended that folks who are unvaccinated be masked, but it is not a mandate.
Okay.
And mask wearing is volitional.
Okay.
And but they do need to be masked on transportation because that's part of the mass transportation. But in the schoolhouse, it's volitional, but strongly recommended for folks who are unvaccinated.
Okay, so is that how we're starting the school year until we find out more guidance from the CDC? Like, is that where we're at now going
So
into
absent
September?
new guidance, which there has been no new guidance, they keep saying follow the CDC, follow the Academy of Pediatrics, but those are recommendations and not mandates. Right now, we're making the assumption that if that guidance continues, that's how we will open the school year.
That's how we can move forward. Okay. And then I also had a question. I know some people are concerned with the armed guards that's in the budget. So now if this is brought back up to disarm the guards and we relook at the budget, does the budget need to be revoted on as a whole? Is this something that comes up or that doesn't come up till the following school year? Sorry.
Yeah, no, the budget would not need to be revoted on, not this school year.
Correct. So it would have to wait till the following school year.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Here to address a long-standing issue, the methodology by which the armed guards were implemented into our school district. Somewhere along the way, our board forgot that the role of the board is to serve and not to rule. And a decision made purely on personal politics is flawed out of the gate. To be clear, I'm not here to ask to remove the armed guards outright. No more than it should have been in your purview to implement them, it's not in your purview to remove them at this time. Tomorrow, I will formally forward a petition signed by nearly 700 individuals asking for an emergency referendum where the community will actually have a say specifically about this issue. And since 3 of you have openly stated your agreement to that, I have no doubt this will happen. I do recognize there may be some objections, and there's been quite a bit of convenient revisionism. Let's eliminate that now. Before the vote last year, one board member told me, you put out a referendum if you wanted to fail and buried it in the budget if you wanted to pass. The attorney admitted that when he learned the board was going to implement guards, irrespective of the community vote, since a referendum is non-binding, he recommended it be placed in the budget to offset any legal action and or public outrage when the community would learn their vote actually meant nothing. And the board feared a referendum. As the board president said at the time, the vast majority of calls and emails received were opposed to armed guards. That was later revised to being pro-armed guards, but thanks to the power of video, what was actually stated is indisputable. Some will argue we don't poll the community on everything. They'll ask if we should start querying the community when we want to change the brand of floor wax. And while that is ridiculous on its face, I'll also say, if 700 people created a petition to have their voice heard on the change in floor wax, then yes, the board is obligated to hear and engage those concerns. Cost, we're talking about spending maybe $50,000 to potentially save $300,000 to $400,000. That seems like smart business to me. And yes, we wouldn't necessarily save the money, but we reallocate it to areas where it could have a greater impact, like a director of guidance or an AP, problem solved. Heck, we could even survey people, which we did all last year through COVID. That costs nothing. We've learned from the past that BOE can do what it wants. I don't think anyone would have a legitimate complaint by more directly involving the community in such a significant decision. And if they do, you have to question that motive pretty seriously. And finally, they'll say there are more important things to discuss, and that's true. But it's still more important than 90% of the things the board discusses. It's not the most important, but it's up there. And most of the more important things aren't even up to the board, it's up to the state. We have a chance to undo this wrong. Outside of our little Connecticut bubble echo chamber, we're openly mocked. People looking to move to Suffolk are told not to move to our district. Educators are recommended to not apply here. Superintendents actively advise their teachers and admin to not apply for jobs or promotions here. And while we can sit back and say, who needs them? The truth is that impacts our children's education and our housing prices. We should all care. Again, we're not asking for the guards to be removed. We're asking for a fair vote, which was the original promised plan. For the first time in a long time, let's do the right thing. I look forward to your announcement.
Thank you. Well said. Is anyone, I open the board discussion? No? Okay.
Okay, since
We will take this on advisement and discuss this.
Okay. Since we're back to discussing armed guards, I just want to remind you that the community was fully aware of what was going on. There was a committee formed by Dr. Adams herself, and residents from both sides of the aisle were in attendance. It was a research-based committee, and the findings were published via email to every single parent in the district, PowerPoint slides. Furthermore, at that time, one of the arguments against armed guards was to instead increase mental health. And this past year and a half of our COVID lifestyle, it's given way to massive decline in mental health everywhere. I would guess that once an armed intruder enters the school grounds, any mental health given prior to that movement obviously didn't work. You cannot stop a bad guy with a gun or save our kids with a therapy session. Another argument was that students would be fearful or worried just from the presence of a guard with a gun on him. And I'm just curious to know, maybe you can look into this, if you've researched that over this, now that we have them, over the last year, if you've had instances where children are afraid since the implementation of armed guards. Are you seeing that in the schools? I think that's an important factor. And also, one last thing, to remember that in order to do a referendum on a budget item that has passed, they'll need to do a proper petition to the Board of Ed. And the Board of Ed would have to then decide, allow that referendum to be voted on. It won't be until May when the community can decide to remove a budget item for a vote. And if it's done any other way, the Commissioner of Education will be petitioned in order to rule on the proper procedure. So this could cost the district money. We already have the guards. This could cost the district money, and I would just suggest to speak to the attorney and see what this will cost us. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Okay, now we're going to close this discussion. We're going to move on now. We're not discussing anything right now publicly.
Yes, we are. I asked for it to be moved.
What to be moved?
The Board of Education topics.
That's what we're going to.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant the,
No more public.
Okay, I'd like to move on to the Board of Ed topics, grant opportunities.
want me to start? I think I put most of these on. Okay, first one. Lee, should I start?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Let me just see the order that they're in so I can go that route. Okay, grant opportunities. I had sent an email to the superintendent and the entire board in regards to how many grants do we have that we've looked into. I was curious about a grant that I had seen. It's called the Stop School Violence Grant, which is designed to improve K-12 independent schools. It's supposed to help with financially with school safety. And I wanted to find out if we ever heard back from the DOH about if public schools are eligible to apply for this grant under the independent school districts. What is an independent school district?
So we did, I did actually hear back in an email. Basically, they sent me the exact same list that I emailed them about. So I did a little further digging, and I actually went to a website that had their kickoff of the event, and public schools are eligible. So I've applied for a SAMS number so that we can actually apply.
Thank you so much. That would be exceptional because that would actually cover some of our offset, a lot of our security. That would offset a good amount or something.
I'm not sure that that's an eligibility because it all has to do with the ability to assess situations. But I will certainly be talking to Don to see what we would want to support through that.
Thank you, that's excellent. The Stop School Violence Grant, like it, perfect. Number 2. That's you, right? I think. Want me to go to mine and then go back to yours, or you want to do yours first?
Oh, just go to number 2. Mine's gonna take a minute. We used to have students come during recognition, especially the elementary ones, that say they win a poetry contest or do something special or a poster or get a library certificate, and they were always acknowledged at a board. Last year they stopped it and did it once at the end of the year. I don't think that's in the best interest of children, or it could be a teacher or an aide that maybe did the Heimlich maneuver one year and saved a life. It's silly to recognize them at the end of the year. We should recognize them at a board meeting. Maybe the planning session would be the best meeting to recognize them as we go throughout the year. I'm not saying we shouldn't have something special at the end of the year, because I did notice, especially at the high school level, that kids were recognized that would not normally have been recognized. So I'm not saying we should discontinue that, but I think as the year progresses, we had kids come in from sports. I think we're a Board of Education and our kids should be acknowledged during that time. So I would need a consensus on that or discussion.
I'm a yes.
We need a motion.
Motion, second.
Motion.
Second.
So there would have to be a motion on something concrete. So you're motioning to do what?
Motioning to have our students be recognized at board meetings, recognized for their accomplishments at board meetings.
Why don't you just insert that into when you do the agenda? Just insert it into the agenda. Don't make it. What?
So the last board voted against having student and teacher recognitions at board meetings. You actually asked for meetings, special meetings for that. So in order to go back to putting it back on the agenda, the board would need to do consensus.
I think we did that. I think we did that though because we wanted
we didn't
to
do
not have a midnight like tonight. Like you're gonna have kids here till what, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, midnight?
15 minutes. They go first and then they go home.
I like that we did last year. I like having everybody, that was nice. We can still do that. I mean, it's not like, so if we can recognize a few kids every month, I think that's fine. And, again, these meetings could get very long and, if you're gonna have like 100 kids being celebrated that night, and that was the reason why somebody had made the suggestion to give them their own night. But, if you're going to recognize and acknowledge 100 kids, then our board meeting goes until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I understand the point of view from that board member, saying if you're gonna have that many kids, you really should just do a special night for them.
Well, 100 kids do a special night for them, but we normally only have 2, 5, maybe even 7. So I don't think we should.
So 7 kids?
Well, sometimes a group of little kindergartners, first grade, third graders. When you do something good, or you get a certificate, or you don't want to wait till the end of the year to be recognized.
No, you're just saying only like 7 kids a night. I'm thinking that's on the light side.
Well, no, that's good. Unless you want to save sports for the end of the year, save sports.
Okay,
All right, I like that.
okay.
Okay.
So you want me to talk about?
So I think we still need that motion in a second to bring recognitions of faculty and students and staff on a smaller scale back to regular board meetings. And if there's going to be a large scale one, I would suggest not waiting to do all the sports at the end of the year.
I would do 3 times a year, Linda.
Yeah, that's what we used to do. So
Primarily focus it on academics, like one focused on sports, and then you make it more special that all parents would want to be there. And put it in a venue like this that's big enough to
okay,
properly.
we just need to go back to, you need a motion in a second to.
So the motion
Recognize.
would be the board authorizes student recognition at regular and planning meetings.
Okay, so I'll motion that. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
How many items do you have?
I have one, and I've got to go.
Seriously, you only have one?
I have one, and then I'm pulling 2 things for a separate vote, and
Oh,
at that
something
point,
different.
I will be making a statement on why I'm not voting for it.
Okay, well, I got one thing too, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this
After
one.
you, I'm gonna go.
Well, this one's here. So I put individual contracts posted. I had requested that we give the community more transparency, because I firmly believe there is a lack of transparency in this district. So I wrote something, and I'm just gonna go over a couple of lines here. I truly believe school district leaders can model transparency by sharing information with the whole school district. These are things that people had written me when I'd said to them that I would see about having all contracts posted on the website. I know that we got a list of 7 that do it throughout the district, some that only do CBAs, and and a lot that don't put any. But we say we're for transparency. So here are some of the things. We as the Board of Ed members need to be held accountable for our actions and decisions. We need to be transparent. People would be less likely to make false assumptions about school issues and information if we led with transparency. By keeping decisions on contracts a secret or expecting people to foil it, we are not establishing open communication and transparency with our community members. If we did this consistently, transparency builds relationships, it's honesty and openness. Lack of transparency can have devastating effects. It sometimes leaves a permanent stain. Schools cannot thrive without the public's trust. We need to share more information with the public and be transparent. Transparency leads to trust. Public transparency refers to how well school boards maintain open and honest lines of communication with citizens and keep them informed on decisions that are made in the best interest of this district. The issue here is, do you or don't you put individual contracts posted? I don't understand why we wouldn't put contracts online and let it just be, whatever needed to be redacted, Lisa would take care of. But to give transparency, for us to be making people foil something that other school districts have openly posted on their websites, so that and someone said to me from administration that maybe 1 or 2 people wants to see this. Okay, but that's 1 or 2 people. If it's something we can do to make it easier, and it's less, there's other districts that do it. We're not gonna be the first, we're not gonna be groundbreaking. I don't understand why we wouldn't be transparent. Is there a reason why we shouldn't be transparent? Go ahead, Lee.
Well, I know what you're talking about. If you're going to do that, you got to put everyone's up. Why just certain people? If you're going to want to put everyone's contract up, put everyone. Every school teacher, every custodian.
That's not what we're asking for, Lee. I'm asking for central office administration. Those contracts should be able to be seen online, as it is in multiple other districts.
How many, and you, Dr. Adams, do you know how many districts do you know how many districts they're shown in?
So we only had 48 districts that responded to our request for information. Of those 48 in Suffolk County, there were 7 that had all contracts on the district website and 8 that had contractual bargaining agreements only, which is the actual bulk of the spending when you're talking about multi-million dollars. The vast majority of school districts did not have any contracts on their website. We have currently the CBAs and the superintendent's contract on the website.
And I'm looking for.
Can I, our district clerk, if someone foiled a contract, how long would it take? Would they have to pay, or would you just email it to them?
I just email it to them. Most of them I have right in my office, and most of them don't require any sort of redaction because there's no personal information. So it takes maybe a few days depending on what time I actually receive the email. So maybe a day or two, but nothing extensive.
Why wouldn't we just
change
be?
your system all along?
Well, why wouldn't we just, well, that's not actually true. I asked the superintendent if the contracts were up 10 years ago or 7 years ago, and the answer I got was that they can't tell me because they don't know. It's a different HR, right? Isn't it different HR personnel? So nobody can answer me. Meanwhile, I spoke to residents that have, from here, community members who were here 20 years ago and said they were all online. Why are they not online? What are you all trying to hide? So my thing is, Lee, if we have nothing to hide, why isn't central office treated similar to the unions? Their CBAs are up. Why would we not just put them up? What are we hiding?
We're not hiding anything, and we're very transparent.
We are not transparent. We are not transparent.
You're making us a bad school district just by your conversation every meeting.
Lee, we are not transparent. Let's just be perfectly clear here. We are not transparent. I don't actually think the word transparent is in the dictionary of some of you. You included in that. You're sitting here telling me new things during a public comment.
Insult me in public. If you want to say something nasty and cruel and untrue, say it to me in executive session. Not here.
Lee,
Not here.
Did you guys change
Okay, it'll
things?
take a 5-minute recess.
Did you change things during an agenda meeting? Did you change things and not tell the other board members? I've been on the board for 2
It
years.
is my meeting. I run the meeting.
So is it power gone to your head or something? I don't think that you have that sort of power. Maybe Lisa needs to address it. That you get to make all these unilateral decisions all of a sudden. And that's not how other boards do it.
Excuse me, let me just say this about this agenda. Before this agenda, when I was a board president at one time, I was in the attorney's office. So the agenda that was being read last year and the year before, I had changed it. Now, I had changed it because I don't want the community upset with me when I have to say stop or we have to take a recess. So I prepared them. Let's be respectful of each other. That's all that said. At the very beginning, I told them about what's going on this summer. You didn't question that one.
But why wouldn't you just tell us? Like, we're supposed to have I'm supposed to be getting all the paperwork on Friday before a meeting. I'm not supposed to come in and it be like, surprise, this changed. And I'm sorry, addressing other things. All of a sudden now, we can't get resumes. I can't get things to look at, to get information. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's changed drastically, and I'm not blaming. I can't say, oh, the new board members voted on it, because they didn't. There was no vote. There was no transparency. I'm getting emails that I'm like, it's like the Twilight Zone. I need to pull things for a separate vote.
Wait, I wanted to add to board topics. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so for those that don't know, I am the president of the Greater Islip Association. And what my group has been doing for the last few years is fighting a zone change at the Island Hill Golf Course. At the developer, Recla Equities, had put in an application for 1,365 apartments to also include retail space. I had spoke, Lee was there too, she spoke on some, issues regarding Oakdale. I spoke about Sayville. And on July 20th, the DEIS study was approved, accepted, or approved. What did she say, approved or accepted, Angie? Accepted. So they accepted the draft environmental impact study, which means is they're gonna move to the next phase of this. From what I'm gathering is early fall, early winter, they're gonna have their first public meeting. So that's just a little bit background on that. So what happens with a draft environmental impact study is the community at one point has the opportunity to say they're in favor or not of some of the particular items that are in question. So what I'd like to bring to the Board of Education's attention is, and I'm reading this from the traffic study, as a remedy. So this is a remedy to the potential traffic that's gonna happen in our Sayville-Boston area. Have more than one arrival and departure time per school. Stagger the arrival and departure times by 30 minutes. This can be done by grades. For example, grade through 5 arrive a half hour before pre-K through 2. This will help distribute traffic and relieve traffic congestions. Well, if you want to build 1,365 apartments, I'd say you're creating a problem that now you want the district to remedy. So with the board's permission, and I just want to pass this on to you guys so you know that I'm not making up, this is, and I'll give you, when the DIS does become for public consumption, I will be sending you guys the link. I think it's important that every board member take a look at the draft environmental impact study, because this will have a tremendous impact on our district. So with the permission of my board, can we have the superintendent, and I'll help her draft this letter because I'm very familiar with this project, and what pertains to this is that she can write a letter to the developer and also the town of Islip, particularly because once the DIS becomes public, we'll have another discussion on that, because that will be the whole environmental study done. But I just want to just do a focus right here for this particular language. It's just on the back side of that page. It's about us staggering time. So I'd just like to know if I can get the permission from the board to write this letter and have with Linda to draft it and signed by the board. I'll make a motion.
So you want to
for-
make a motion to draft a response letter to that environmental study regarding traffic patterns and the board's responsibility to address same?
Yes, I would like to address that to the developer and also the town of Islip.
Okay. So the board would authorize the superintendent and the board president to draft a response letter to the traffic study regarding, to the traffic study's solution involving the Board of Education.
Yeah, I will help Linda write that letter, because I am very familiar with this project. Obviously, the whole board can have any input on this letter. Again, like the original, when we were talking about a cover sheet, I'll give Linda some particular bullet points. She can draft a letter and then have the board review it, and if the board wants to make any corrections or additions, they can do so.
So you need a first?
I'll motion.
Wait, is this for Jay?
No, for my letter that I'm asking.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm a yes.
Yes.
So just for a point of information, this was given to me when it was still in draft form, and I did respond to what they decided was going to be the fix to the problem they were creating, and really kind of ripped apart their response. So I can certainly take that and add to what you're going to give to me.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, moving on.
Jay, we need to pull things for a separate vote.
We're pulling items?
Yes, I'm pulling items.
Lee's pulling too?
Lee, are you pulling or is it just me? Are you pulling?
That's what you wanted.
Yeah. Yes.
What's 2 and 3? I gotta go look.
Motion.
Second.
Wait, I have to I have to look again. Oh, okay, I got you, okay. I do have a question, I'm not gonna pull, I just have a question. Is if I'm allowed to ask my question, so Linda, I noticed that some of the start dates were July, and here we are in August approving those particular positions. I know that there was a discussion prior with the prior board, and I understand some positions can't get on that agenda. I understand delaying it maybe towards the next agenda. But I don't understand why these positions couldn't have been put on at the reorg meeting, which was July 8th, when the hire dates were July 1st. So if you look at the, I guess we don't have the human resource person here. If you look at the start dates on some of these, it was put on the Excel sheet, and it was like those summer programs, and they were starting from July 1st and then till the end of August. Well, we're at the beginning of August, and a month has gone by, and why are we now appointing those people or approving those people when they've been already a month on the books in that particular role? All right, well, I just want to, I mean, obviously, these people are working, so I'm not going to, I would never deny or make an issue of that, but I will make an issue that in the future, you know, if we can be a little bit more prompt on if we're going to put an appointment on there, that we obviously do it in a timely fashion where the appointment comes, then the person works, not the appointment comes after the person's already working a month. I don't think that's good optics.
Proper procedure. And Lee, when do you want me to, were you gonna vote on those?
Wait, you gotta pull items from what?
From the personnel agenda without 2 and 3.
A separate vote, so 2 and 3 are not being voted on right now.
Right, so items 2 and 3 from the instructional schedule are being pulled for a separate vote.
All right, so then Lee has to say you're voting on the items, blah, 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 to blah, blah, blah.
Well, no, we need I have a motion to approve the rest of the schedules as amended. I just need a second and an all in favor, and then you guys can do number 2 and 3.
A second.
So wait, when you say as amended, it's remove those two. So when you say as amended, removing items 1, 2, and 3, I think that's what should be properly done. Correct. By the way, this is the town attorneys. This, sorry, this is the town of Islip's. Their person who countered.
All right. I'm making a
Rockland.
motion to approve items 1 through.
No.
Just as amended with 2 and 3 removed.
Is that all?
Yep.
Okay, make a motion to.
Well, you're not amending it. You're removing 2 and 3 for a separate vote. You're not amending the,
Motion to approve everything other than 2 and 3.
yes.
Motion, I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now motion to number 2. Motion,
Motion.
second,
No.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
No, and I'd like to explain why.
Go ahead. Okay, number 3.
Well, I'm gonna,
Wait, did
I
it
want to
pass?
explain, thank you, because I want it put on the record. Yeah, and then I can explain for both, that's fine.
Make a motion to approve number 3.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 No,
So Lee,
abstain.
Lee, will it be helpful just to say motion passed and motion failed, because I couldn't hear the first one, so.
Jesse, please put me down for an abstention for both of those.
Okay, well, because you voted no, so am I changing it to
I'm changing it to,
abstention?
yeah, because it's abstention, and I want to explain why I'm abstaining. It has nothing to do with the personnel, it actually has to do with the procedure on what was done. So I'd like to explain. Can I do that? Okay. I had asked administration for full transparency. I asked for documents that for the last 2 years I was given with no issue. Now I was only told today, without Board of Ed vote, it was changed to you need a consensus prior and could not be done. I was told that next time I can have this done through a consensus, but for today, I was denied the documents or access by admin to help me make an informed decision. So I will need to abstain due to lack of transparency. I truly believe if I cannot achieve transparency from the top administration in our district, then one must question how much is given to the public in general. I will not rubber stamp anything. I have a responsibility and I cannot make decisions with lack of information or transparency. If we provide information to support transparency, then I would have no problem saying yes to both of these.
Okay, now I'm going to say my little piece. The board trusts the hiring process. The previous board overstepped and hired who they wanted to the detriment of the community, the committee, and most importantly, our children.
Well, Lee, I don't think that has anything to do with me requesting information such as a resume or committee paperwork or something to review. I do not believe that me asking and requesting that has anything to do with the actual hiring. I'm not looking to interview a person. I'm asking for positions, paperwork, and I asked for that days ago by email. Why was I not told by email that you're not going to be able to get it? Why did we wait till today? Because we like to do this kind of stuff.
You were told earlier, and
I was told today.
No.
And I asked on Friday. And just so we're clear, I've been on the board for 2 years. And for the last 2 years, it has never been an issue if I said, you know what, can I just have the paperwork? I want to look. What are we hiding? What are we hiding in this district that you can honestly sit there and say, it's a big deal? There should be no big deal. It's a resume. You're showing me everything else. We see everything else about personnel.
If you just listen to what I had just said, we trust administration.
You trust. Don't ever use we with me sitting on this board.
I know.
You trust. I don't trust for reasons.
Administration.
I don't trust for reasons. And maybe people should go back in time and remember, not have selective memory, that for a meeting March 20th, Lee, March 10th, 2020, Lee, I guess you forget. And let's go forward. Let's fast forward to being told we don't need a curriculum person. We don't need this. We don't need that. Tell me things and then question why I don't trust certain people. It is what it is.
Okay.
I would like transparency for the district. People sent in emails and requested transparency. Did you see those? Did you see those? I think it's time we start giving the community transparency.
To non-instructional, I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second. Okay.
I have a question.
Hold on.
Could I just interrupt? I would like to introduce someone. So I'd like to introduce Brian Dolan, who is our new high school AP. Congratulations, Brian.
Okay, so now.
I have a question, Lee, before we vote on this.
Before we go to consent, financial matters is before consent, please. The claims auditor report.
Financial report. I need a motion and a second to approve.
Motion.
So I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now the consent agenda.
I have a question.
Wait, is there a motion on the table?
Motion.
Second. It's 2 through 13 is amended. 13. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Which number?
Number 4. Budget transfers. Is this the infamous money energy performance contract that the money went missing or we reallocated it on March 10th of 2020? Not the question I'm asking. Is this what you pulled off and this is the money that we had originally to pay for what you guys had said we didn't have the money for?
Money was put in the budget.
Dr. Adams, I can answer if you want.
Thank you, please.
So in the budget, there's two line items for the energy performance contract. One is for the principal amount and one is for the interest. When the budget was being prepared, Munistat, the financial advisors, had yet to give us the amortization schedule. So recently, we received the amortization schedule, and we now know the amount for the principal payments, and we now know the amount for interest. So it's just reallocating when we make the payment that we record the principal and interest correctly.
Was this pulled off, though? Was this what was pulled off? I mean, I know you weren't here, so I'm not sure if you would even know the answer. At March of 2020, this is what they had said it was the energy performance contract.
But Jackie, this is a different budget year. So we're looking at the 21-22 budget now, not
No,
the
I understand that. What I'm asking you is this the money, did it roll? Did we roll that money over? Or did we use that money, the energy performance contract money, to pay for salaries on the last budget? Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So we used that money and now we're reallocating and doing another budget transfer is what it looks like.
It wasn't, we didn't perform the energy performance contract in 2021.
I know.
We now are instituting it, so we now have to begin to pay.
Right, this is the money we pulled off March 10th to pay for all the salaries.
Correct.
Okay.
Aye.
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 Committees. I was looking at Sachem and they have different committees that I thought would be beneficial to Connecticut. So when we, the board sits on these particular committees, I know we just keep taking the same committees over and over and just transferring from year to year. At what point are we gonna kind of spice things up and put a few different committees on or create committees? Huh?
Why don't we have a planning session and we'll put that on it, and it's the same with the goals, and we'll do the goals at the same time. That makes sense.
All right, so Jesse, can you pull up Sachem? Because they had a couple of good ones on there. And I'm like, wow, why isn't our district doing those? And then just share those to the board.
Will do. Okay, so the only report I have, because I know we're getting late, is we have 27 community members who have applied to be part of the Facilities Advisory Committee.
Me
too.
Well, you guys are on it. We already put you guys on it.
Okay.
We will be getting together within the next week or so to just look at the charge and begin to take walkthroughs through the buildings with those committee members. 27 is a kind of large committee, so we're going to kind of gauge the interest of those folks who put it together, because 27 is a lot of cooks in the kitchen. But we will be putting that first meeting together within the next 2 weeks, so we can get in before school starts.
Thank you, that was quick. I like that, Linda. Yes. Adjourn.
Motion.
I'll second that. Aye.
Aye.